You must bet at least 5. So is that wrong? Hello, everybody. How are you doing? Can you see me? Can you hear me? Please let me know. I'm still experimenting with this new microphone, the Samson Q2U. My poor old, my old trusty Blue Yeti has been kicked to the side. It's hanging over there. Maybe I'll use it for recording stuff with Jen in the future. I'm experimenting with that. But Goblin says, can see, can hear, heard ages ago. Oh, yes, I forgot. You could actually hear me during the countdown, couldn't you? Clearing my throat and whatnot. Whoopsie. Still, I've been doing this Twitch thing for a year. You'd think I'd have it down to a science now. No science here. It's all hokey religions and superstition, kid. So, what's that? Oh, do I have two turntables? No, I do not. I will not be DJing today, Eclectic Camel. Okay, hey everybody, welcome. Every month I spend a few hours recording the monthly podcast because folks send questions to questions@rahdo.com, the email address, and then I collate them all into a big Word document, and then I spend a couple of hours walking through them all. And half of them are just regular game or Rahdo runs through or industry related stuff. And generally about half of them are kind of more of a personal nature or what have you. So the personal questions, which Jen joins me for, those are in the second half. I already recorded that a couple of days ago. So now I just need to record all the game related questions, and then I'll be able to stitch it all together and put it out there via the, Anchor.fm is how I host and propagate my podcast, which, even though I do get paid to do ads for it on the podcast, even though no one's paying me to say this right now, I will still say Anchor.fm is absolutely amazing, and I don't understand why anybody uses any other solution for their podcast. It's entirely free, lets you put ads on, lets you modify them after they've been updated, automatically propagates them to all the sites. It's really, really well done. And they say you can't get something for nothing in life, but in this case you do, because it's basically a loss leader for Spotify. Spotify is trying to basically run every other podcast hosting platform out of existence. So, they are beating everybody on price by giving one of the best, most full-featured services totally for free. So as long as it's free, I'll keep using it. And again, no one paid me to say that. And that was neither here nor there. I am just riffing. I am just filling time, giving more folks a chance to show up. So let's stop and say hi to everybody. Hey, Clyde Man and Eclectic Camel and Goblin 981 and Flaming Ruin first timer. Welcome to the party, pal. I really need to get some kind of welcome to the party, pal explosion animation because I love saying it so much with a little John McClane coming out, shouting at you through a window. Let's see here. Oh, wait. Oh, no, never mind. Flaming Ruin is a scammer. It's a spammer. By followers, primes, and viewers on mountviewers.com. First of all, I'll make a note of that to myself. And second of all, I will banish you. How do I do that? I don't generally, a moderator beat me to the, and yet I signal boosted the spammer. I literally read the entire thing. And I did not actually write that down. I am not going to go out and seek artificial subscribes and all of that. Oh, I am so silly. Like I said, I've been doing this Twitch thing for you. You'd think I wouldn't be quite so naive as to do that. But I totally did that. That was ridiculous. Anyway, continuing on. Hey, Eclectic Camel. Hey, Knights Around the Table. Hey, Ryan. How are you doing? And let's see. Puck Boy. And scrolling back up. Flashburn. How are ya? How's everybody in your household, your life, everybody in your orbit? Hopefully great. Okay, I've said, and Feldfan, first person to say hey, I say hey back to thee. Hopefully you'll forgive me for not putting a Feld game at the number one spot of the top 100 games of all time, which we're getting ever closer to finishing. Okay, Rail King seems to be asking, what is with this OFPG cert? What's my relation to OFPG? I'm just a big fan. This is Our Family Plays Games, another YouTube channel. For the last few months, for an entire month, I have just been wearing the shirt of another channel. Signal boosting them a little bit, saying how much I enjoy them. First one I did was for Lord of the Board. Then I did a month of Maggie and Amy for Thinker Themer. And this month, the month of May, is Our Family Plays Games month here at the Rahdo Runs Through channel. So you're going to see a lot more of this shirt. I'm going to run this shirt into the dirt. And then in June, I'll get some other channel shirt and start wearing it. Because I just figured why not use my platform to kind of, push people towards more stuff that I think is really awesome and hopefully get them some more traffic. Fingers crossed. Eclectic Camel proudly declares, and I completely agree, Lord of the Board is awesome. Are they not? Yes, they are. If I can pin that to the screen. Why isn't that pinning? That's weird. Oh, there's always something weird going on here. Can I pin it over there? Yeah, I can. There we go. Yes, Lord of the Board, Eclectic Camel is, as always, correct. Completely and totally awesome. Okay. So, where are we going? Okay, so, like I said, I'm just chilling a little bit of time before we actually get to the main event, which is the podcast. But for some people, I imagine the main event is this. This showed up on Monday, and it has just been sitting on the shelf mocking me the entire time. I could not wait to actually open it. This game was on my most anticipated list in 2020, in 2021, and 2022. So 3 years I've been waiting for this thing, and I've got documented proof, and it's finally here, and it's still in shrink, and I am going to open it all for you now. I am not going to play it. Probably going to be playing it with Jen this weekend, if all goes to plan, because I have to schedule out all our gaming to the nth degree. But let's go to the overhead, and here we go. Hey, build an empire of dice. In Dice Realms, each player rules a small realm, represented by customizable dice, seeking both to improve and enlarge it. During play, players upgrade their dice by popping out die faces and replacing them with more powerful faces. Players can buy more dice, but beware, winter is coming. You will need... You can tell how long I've been waiting for this because it's using a very now outdated Game of Thrones reference to say that winter is coming. Yeah, winter came and left long before we finally got our hands on this game. But anyway, winter is coming. You'll need grain for every die you own. Can you build the most prosperous and powerful realm? Roll and find out. Okay, and so the game comes with 668 plug-in die faces. And what do you want to bet? They had to throw 2 extra in just to be on the safe side to avoid a different number unique die faces that might have come with it. 128 die cut counters. Are those the actual dice themselves? I mean, 18 customizable dice, 668 faces to plug into those dice, 3 trays with locking lids, a whole bunch of stuff. Why am I reading this to you when I could... Although, you know what? Hey, here's a nice summary of the game. Oh, that's nice. So, how does the game play? Roll your dice and the fate die. And if it's winter, you have to feed your dice. Then you can re-roll 1 die, so it's like a very limited Yahtzee kind of thing, or you can spend re-roll tokens to re-roll more. Or, if you have this upgrade, you can set dice to certain faces. Then resolve any attacks, in case the event die said, oh, we're invaded, or other players invade you if you go for aggressive dice faces. So you might temporarily lose some of your dice when you're fighting, or, fending off attacks. Then harvest stuff, victory points and grain, or innovation, I guess. Invest or innovate, and then finally on your turn, upgrade your dice, swapping new die faces out. Upgrading from level 2 to 3 to 4, 1 to 2 to 3, or upgrading existing faces or swapping out existing faces for new faces. And then roll again, build the best dice round to win. So it's interesting. I remember seeing an interview with Tom, Mr. Tom Lavin, Mr. Race for the Galaxy, where he talked about how he had actually already done an expansion for Roll for the Galaxy using these dice face. And, and several other games have actually had these kind of customizable dice. But there's always something else. The dice serve some other bigger game, and he wanted to see, no, I'm going to make a game where the dice just serve the dice. That's all there is. So we've got a handy-dandy little player aid that walks you through. I don't know if I focused the camera. Let's make sure that's focused. No, it's okay. All the different standard faces you can upgrade. And then, because I believe every time you play, and then random, what does that say? Random tile, suggestions for how to do a randomized kind of Dominion style setup with different dice faces. Recommended. Oh, so again, like Dominion, hey, if you want to have the long winter, go with this combination of stuff. Or Love and Plague Time. Get yourself Fertile Valley, Matchmaker, Monastery, Plague, and Quarantine. Did they plan on that? Well, I guess, if this has been in development for that many years, I wonder if that got added after certain world events took a turn. Anyway, though, so what do we got? So, we got a bunch of stuff that represents our food and our, I guess these green things are victory points, at least based on what I saw on the back. Accumulate tokens for rerolls and setting dice aside. These must be like negative victory points. This is, I don't know, just keeping track of how many rounds. I don't think so. I think there's only like 3 or 4 rounds, not 10, but maybe there are. I don't know everything about it. So lots of food counters. Oh, okay, this must be something that everybody has one of these to keep track of their die results. Yep, looks like a lot of the same stuff. These are very, very thick. And now, these are important. These are the randomizers that we use to determine what dice faces are going to be available, whether we add nobles or sheep, or a time of plenty, or grain trade, or pillaging, or war, or fairs, or gardening, or plow teams, or the shrines, or castellans, or castellans, yeah, diplomats, monasteries, heroes, grain robbers, even more. So every time you play, you're going to have a random assortment of these, and they tell you what the different die faces you're adding to the game. I wonder if they tell you the different die faces, or they... No, yeah, I think you would add different die faces, because after we get past all of these, and again, these are nice and thick. Yep, not going to bend. And they pop out. No spurs, anything. I think that's an important thing you're supposed to say in an unboxing. So a lot of variety. What the heck, I'll just go on ahead and you can look at them very quickly. We're on Twitch live right now, so you can't pause, but later on, people will be able to pause when they watch this on YouTube or watch it later on Twitch. Although, actually, here's a trick to Twitch. Even though you're watching me live right now, if in fact you're watching me live right now, you can actually see what I said 5 minutes ago by scrolling down and going to the video tab on my Twitch page, and there you will find all the videos I've done recently, including this one. And if you launch that in a separate window, it will be everything in this live stream up until the moment when you launch that in a separate window. So if you want to hear, wait, what did he say? You can actually, it's not as nice as YouTube, but there's a way you can rewind and go back and see what we're saying. But sorry, folks, this is not a Twitch run through. This is an unboxing of Dice Realms. So we've got some baggies. We've got some Agricola-style food and some purple tokens, which, I don't know, are some kind of, looks like maybe one for each player. Yep. Then we have bags and bags and bags and bags and bags full of 668 die faces. That is a lot. And I know some people have said, why am I going to pay so much money? Because I guess this game retails for over $100 for a dice game. It's because you are getting, I mean, just the amount it must cost to produce all of this. Plus, not for nothing, all 3 of these look at all the nice and shiny, the diamond faceted, very nice trays for organization. These snap in pretty tight. Yep, they snap tight. They're not just one of those loose-fitting ones. Here I am holding it, not falling apart, although, of course, there's nothing banging down on it. So, as I understand it, they've actually tried to make this... I don't want to open all these bags right now and put them all, because, as I understand it, like, this bag, all these go in here, and this one, all these go in here, and this one, all those go in there, they were actually purposely bagged to make doing all the layouts for all these trays a little bit easier, so you don't have to spend quite so much time sorting. And of course, you only ever have to do it once, because once you've done that, everything goes in the right place. Looks like these are big spots for the actual dice themselves. Let's go on ahead and look at those. And I mean, I assume people have seen this kind of stuff in games before. These, let me just go on ahead and get one little die face, in case you haven't. I will open up this tiny little dock, this little one here. And I'm being careful not to have the faces fly all over the place. All right, and I'll just put them all right in here. I'm sure that's not where they're all supposed to go, but we'll just put them in there. And so, the way the game works is everybody starts out with 2 dice, and they're the standard the same, but over the, and basically the way these work is you just snap all these things into these dice, and, they snap in really snugly and securely. I've played other games that use this exact same methodology. And so they're going to stick together. And then you start rolling. And over the course of the game, you roll, you re-roll, you earn upgrades and whatnot. Like, hey, if I turn this up, I believe that means upgrade a level 1 to a level 2 probably. So it comes with this little thing. And you just use that to pop it off, put it back where it came from, and then get the next level. Because you've leveled up. Although, as I understand it, there's really cool ideas like, okay, hey, there's all these here on the first level, and the second level, and the third level, and okay, well, I could just level up, or, if I'm replacing this one, it's an up and right, kind of like a knight. So it's up and right, so I go from this one to this one instead of this one to this one. From what I've seen, this game is Tom Lehman pushing the idea of what can you do with customizable dice farther than anybody else has done before. Because this is, of course, not the first game that's done this. But, I mean, he is doing so many things, like, dead faces that do nothing other than victory points at the end of the game. So, I want to yeah, that's a 6-point die face. I'll put it on. But then when I roll it, it's, kind of like putting a province in your, deck in Dominion. I mean, and then, bringing in the physicality of these trays in, and, but again, the whole game itself is just like a clean, simple, elegant, fast-playing dice game where every round you're going to roll a couple of dice, re-roll one. Oh, and then there's also the event die. And this is going to say, if it's winter, everybody's got to pay for the dice they've got or suffer consequences. Or maybe it'll be a barbarian invasion or whatever. And I believe this die, the event die, can be customized as well and changed up so that, hey, let's actually not only change our own our own fightum, let's change the nature of the world itself, because the entire world is just represented by these dice. And of course, over the course of the game, you start with 2, but you're going to be rolling more as you level up, and that means you're going to have to pay more, like the workers in Agricola or something like that. And that's it, folks. And really, where the rubber hits the road, is all these 50 bajillion, or more to the point, exactly 668 dice faces that are represented. Where were they? By all of these powers. Attack, so if you want to make an attack-heavy game, you can really focus on them, attack and defense cards, or, playing up the plague elements of the game, or, being rich. And yeah, I have been excited about this game forever. Honestly, I don't think I've seen anybody else mention this, but to me, this kind of gives me a Favor of the Pharaoh vibe, which is a dice game that Tom did many, many years ago. And that was actually a remake of a previous game. I want to say Favor of the Pharaoh. The previous one was Something of the King, Service of the King, or something like that. And I always thought that was a really cool and sadly overlooked game that deserved more love. I mean, I've kept it all these years. I've held on to my Favor of the Pharaoh. And so taking ideas from there and taking them to the next level with fully customizable dice makes me very excited, very happy. I have to film a podcast now, but that is not what I want to be doing. I want to take this into the next room, read the rules, and play it for the rest of the day because I am very excited. And like I said right up front, I have been stoked for this game for 3 years now. It's repeatedly been a mainstay at the top of my most anticipated lists that I do at the beginning of every year. But that's it, folks. We have unboxed, and I see in the time we've unboxed, we have tripled our viewership. Hooray! And so the unboxing has done its job, and I am now ready to start actually doing the real job I'm here to do. Out of the way, camera. I don't need you. Okay. So, before we actually get to the podcast, let's breathe for a second. Let's just calm down. And let's see. To court the king, says Goblin. Thank you. Yeah, I knew king was in it. I was close. Favor of the Pharaoh, and prior to that, to court the king. I've never played the original one, but Favor of the Pharaoh was very, very sharp. You can watch my old run-through for it. Although I start off with one of my biggest goofs I've ever made, but always watch the Klingon subtitles. And, and considering how good that was, and this thing seems to borrow ideas from that, borrow ideas from Dominion, come up with its own ideas. It's got a little Yahtzee thing, and I get it. I know for a lot of people are like, oh yeah, that all sounds really fun. I would love to get that game for $50. And the thing is, that's a lot of content. And now more than ever, publishers are struggling still to this day to deal with international shipping charges that have increased by 200% and really limited. I mean, this game has already been long delayed, but I'm sure the events of the last couple of years have just pushed it off even further. I remember at one point they thought they would have it out 2 years ago. They'd had all the dice face because they didn't have it before, and it was these trays, which I gotta say are really nice looking. I just really like how they kind of shimmer with all the fastenings. That these ended up taking quite a while as well. And these are very, very nice. And this is not like something that Rio Grande, the publisher, is known for. So obviously there was probably learning curves in getting this all taken care of. So yeah, that translates into money. And I totally understand. For some people it's too much. And hey, you know what? Maybe you'll be able to play it at a convention, or one of your friends will pick it up, or you'll pick it up used because not everybody who gets it is going to like it, and you can get it secondhand. But Tom Lehman has a pretty unassailable record. Roll for the Galaxy, Race for the Galaxy, more recently, Raise Arcana, Favor of the Pharaoh. All the expansion work he's done for Pandemic over the years. He is deservedly one of my highest respected designers to date. And so this is something that he's been working on for half a decade. So I am expecting true greatness, and I cannot wait to play it. I imagine I'll be doing a run through for it probably very, very early next month after Jen and I have spent some quality time with it. But yeah, I totally get it. It is a big bite of an apple to get this game. And as Knights Roundtable points out, Res Arcana rules. Yes, a phenomenal game. I mean, heck, I guess if you want some really quality Tom Lehman gaming and you can't quite afford this, check out Res Arcana, because that's just basically a deck of cards. And it's a little bit more to it than that. Let's see here. Just don't call out the attack. Yeah. Let's see. What were the main reasons for... Oops, that was the wrong button. What were the main reasons for the delays to this game? I can't really say that I know. I would assume, obviously, the main reasons that a lot of games have been delayed for the last 2 years, and a lot of things just in general in any production chain have been delayed, because I bet you if it hadn't been for COVID, this probably would have shown up last year. Probably. And I expect the delays before that were because this was a really big, new, undiscovered country for Rio Grande to bite off. One of their biggest productions they've ever done. And I am certain they realized there was going to be price sensitivity, and they were doing their best to try to keep the price down. And that's probably another thing that, kept them delayed months and months and months and months, as they tried to negotiate better deals with whoever their manufacturer was. For years, Rio Grande did all of their manufacturing in the USA, actually. But I guess a few years ago, they had to stop that because the factory they were using, they couldn't book time with anymore. And so they eventually had to shift over to China like everybody else. And how expensive would it have been if it had been printed in the US? I can't even imagine. Let's see here. Let's just scroll up and see if there's any other... Oh, hello, Mom Gamer. I'm so glad you're back as a regular. You're one of my faves. Right. It's all fun and games until the kids get a hold of those trays. Yes, I think you'll have to watch them like a hawk. Definitely, because that's a lot. And actually, it's interesting. I have played some other games that here's a pro tip, folks, in case you're going to get this game. And right, where's the... I need one of those little spatulas. Oh, where'd they go? There it is. So here's one thing about these. When, let me go back. Let me zoom back into the overhead. Boop. If you are going to get these and you use this little thing to pop it out, when you're popping them out, keep your thumb on the piece. Because there have definitely been times, I'm going to do a test for scientific purposes. Let's see what happens if I just try to pop it out. Okay, that's not too bad. I've had some of these that are so tight that they will literally fly halfway across the room. This one just did a little spinny dance, and okay, yeah. You know what? That's probably another lesson learned from Rio Grande after they got so many people complaining that, I flew to the other side of the room and my dog ate it. Can you please make them not quite so extreme? Yeah, okay, I guess you don't have to hold the finger because they aren't going to fly quite so far now. Whereas previous iterations of this idea, oh man, they were like spring-loaded, just ready to fly to the other side of the room. So that's interesting. Do you get that kind of detail on other people's unboxings? I don't think so. Do I have any idea what I'm doing? Definitely not. Okay. Oh, hey, bags. Oh, one big, ginormous bag. Literally, oh, no, not quite, almost. I wonder if I could get Jen's head in this bag. It is a huge bag. I don't know what goes in here. I wonder if this is just a randomizer for the starting tiles. It is a way to, put all the different tiles in, draw 5 randomly. I wonder if that's what it's for. That would be my best guess, but I do not know, because I'm not actually going to sit here and read the rules for you folks. I will do that and then play the game and then film it, and then you'll find out what the bag is for. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's a good point. A comparator for this game, Dice Forge. Never understood how Dice Forge is $35 new. My suspicion is volume. They printed a bajillion copies of that game, and you can get your prices knocked down when you do it. That's got the Asmodee touch. Rio Grande does not quite have the same, can't call on favors and get, economy of scale the way Asmodee does. Because isn't Dice Forge... I know it's from a French publisher, but I believe it's under the Asmodee blanket. So, yeah, this game might have been significantly cheaper if Tom had taken it to Asmodee. or Fantasy Flight or one of the offshoots instead of to Rio Grande. But he has a long-standing relationship with Rio Grande, so he knows them, he likes them. It makes sense that he would go there. But yeah, there's no two ways about it. It is probably the most expensive dice game you'll ever buy. If you're not sure about it, wait a few weeks. My run-through will be up. Ignore my final thoughts, because remember, I got the game for free, so I can't judge its value. All I can do is my best to demonstrate the game so that you can get a sense for what it feels like to play, and you can decide, okay, will that give me enough fun for how much I have to pay? That is, yeah. Oh, yeah, and Ryan at Knights Around the Table confirms it's Libelud, which is under the Asmodee umbrella, so that would be my guess as to why you've got economy of scale there. I mean, Rio Grande is just not as big a player. Rio Grande's a relatively small and modest concern. People tend to think, oh yeah, Rio Grande's been around forever. They're a behemoth in the industry. No, they're not. They're just a handful of dudes doing their best. And yeah. Anyway, though. So here's the deal, folks. I am now going to start recording the podcast. That will probably take me 40 to 60 minutes, depending on how long I blather on in response to the questions that came into questions@rahdo.com. After I am done with that, if I haven't bored you to tears and you haven't run screaming for the hills, I will then turn the attention to you because, hey, if you've got questions, especially questions that might have been spawned by the answers I give to the questions I already have, definitely throw them my way while I'm actually recording the podcast, and we will add more content to the podcast for people later on. So to ensure that I see your question, what you have to do is you have to start your question with a question mark. You can still end with a question mark like normal people do, but you got to start with a question mark as well, because that will actually put it in a queue of questions that I will then review. Because there's a lot of cool stuff on Twitch, but trying to actually find questions amongst all the candy-coated, colorful chat stream that we have on this platform is very, very difficult to find. So, if you have questions for me, especially game-related ones or ones tied into the topics, start your comment with a question. I'll be able to find it, and we'll do a quick review and see if any of those questions should go onto the podcast. And if not, I'll still stick around and do Q&A afterwards if you have non-game questions or whatever it might be. Hey, Denoga, thank you for resubscribing for 7 months. Well, okay, I guess I got to keep doing this for 7 more months now. Thanks. Yep, and as always, folks, if you for followers, the more followers I get, the quicker I am going to unlock another bonus top 10. I'm probably going to be doing the recently unlocked bonus top 10, I think in the first week of June. Check the schedule down in the Twitch below. I might not have updated that yet. And but subscribers, yay! Those are the big ticket items for me, because the more of those I get, we are halfway towards unlocking another RVR episode, which is me and Ruel sitting down and doing our best to destroy each other for your entertainment. Although we always try to, in our live play-alongs, come up with games that you can play with us and destroy us communally. So, yeah, got more subscribes to unlock, got more followers, and of course, if you want to throw a few bits my way, or maybe buy some Rahdo merch or something like that, that all contributes to the big one down there, which will probably take a few months to fill, and then that will be a bonus run-through I film for everybody. This month, we unlocked one of these, and that's how I did my live run-through of Guild of Merchant Explorers, which, for now, is my favorite 2022 game. Although, that might be changing soon. That might be replaced very soon. We will see. Okay, so, and I guess in closing, in case you didn't know, if you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, you can subscribe and get tons of benefits, discounts on merch, secret word access, exclusive videos that nobody else gets to see. Scroll down below the video in the subscribed question mark section. There's a list of everything you can get. And if you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, all those benefits for free. You basically just take a few bucks out of Jeff Bezos' pocket and put it directly in my pocket. So therein ends the advertisement. Now begins the content. But let me just scroll down to see if there's anything else I need to take care of. Oh, I see some folks are starting to ask questions with question marks. Excellent. Kabuki Kid, yes, you are very candy colored. You're delicious, all of you, I must say. Alrighty, so okay, it looks like you folks are good to go. The mic has not failed. So this is the second live stream where hopefully if it does not fail, I will know I've made the correct choice. I did an A-B comparison between this Samsung mic, the Q2U, and my old Blue Yeti. And I think the Blue Yeti has a slightly warmer sound, a little bit more pleasing. But only if I switch them back and forth A-B did I even notice a difference. So I'm pretty happy with the audio quality of this mic. If it doesn't fail me, do not fail me, then I think we have a winner on our hands. Right. Okay. So, I think that is all she wrote, folks. So, okay. All right, CEO Nazgoth, bye-bye. Nazgoth, of course, actually sent his questions through questions@rahdo.com. So I'll be getting to your stuff later. You'll hear it in the podcast. Everything I'm going to be doing today, folks, is ultimately, this is going to be for the podcast, which you can go to podcast.rahdo.com and subscribe. You can find it on iTunes and Spotify and pretty much any platform. If there's a podcast platform you use and you cannot find Rahdo Talks Through, please let me know. I'll make sure it gets on that platform too. Okay, but phew. Alrighty, I am now going to put the little reminder up there that while I'm recording, I'm just treating this like a standalone show. You're in the audience. You can applaud if you want. There's some stickers down there for such things. You can warn me if the sound goes out. There's stickers for that too. That's what a bomb is. Or if I make some terrible mistake, you can warn me by doing the, hey, listen, and I will actually stop. Try not to abuse it, and see what it is that's so important because I've made some sort of mistake, and I will course correct. That happened in yesterday's R&R show. It worked out very well. So, but anyway, folks, please talk amongst yourselves. If you have any questions, add them as comments, starting with a question mark, and I think we are good to go. One last sippy sip. And thanks for showing up, everybody. Thanks for supporting the show in any way you can, even if it's just watching and having a good time. I appreciate that too. Okay, so I am going to mark this as the start. I do that so it's easy to find where I started and when I'm editing because I see just like a big gigantic spike. And let's get going with the questiones. There we go. Okay, so. Okay, everybody, it is time for the questions. And as always, questions at rahdo.com. This show doesn't exist without you folks. So let's start with Lance. Nope. Shoot. Gosh darn it. Why did that happen? Why was I on the wrong thing? Okay. Cut. All right. Already I'm goofing. Hey, you guys are getting... I'm going to start over again because... I wasn't very far in. It's going to be pretty easy to just start over and actually be at the beginning because these are all in alphabetical order. Not that anybody cares at all. Just for my own edification. Okay. So, let's see here. What do we got? Yeah, okay. One more time. Okay, everybody, it is time. We've got a whole bunch of stuff that has come into questions at rahdo.com. As always, folks, please keep the questions coming. I got no podcast without you. This is a two-way street. So let's get going, starting with Alexander, who says, I know your stance on Tabletop Simulator, and I agree, says Alexander. Since COVID, a lot of publishers have started putting up official mods or linking endorsed fan-made mods, and that's great. Tabletopia has also grown a lot, and they are all official, of course. My opinion, and it seems that many publishers agree, is that a free digital alternative won't hurt the game financially. What do you think? I completely agree. I think it is ridiculous. I do not understand. It is so easy for even the smallest independent publisher out there to get their game on either of these platforms. And instantly, it's practically, once it's up there, it's free advertising. You can tell any of your followers, hey, our game's not going to be available for 6 months. Try it out now. Get excited. Spread the word. And I'm sure some people will say, but then no one will buy the game. Yes, they will. At the end, I mean, as I always say, online poker has not replaced people going and playing poker in real life. Online chess has not stopped people from going and playing chess. Yes, there's a subset of people who do that, but still, people want to touch things. People want to be in each other's real physical presence, and board games facilitate that more than anything else. So there is no reason, publishers, for you to be afraid of these platforms. And there are so many people, like Alexander, if I believe, I remember from looking at his email, he actually makes mods mods of games he likes for free. Tabletopia, last I knew, they had just like a nice simple flat, I think it was like $300, and the company that runs Tabletopia will make a professional mod and get it on their platform, so it's available for anybody for free. And you can play on mobile or on any web browser anywhere in the world. Everybody should be doing this, and they should not be afraid. Now, 20 years from now, yeah, maybe the existence of a digital mod will have enough of an impact that enough people who might have bought it would say, I don't need to buy it, I'm all digital all the time. But you know what? That's a future where it's going to be so different anyway, because 20 years from now, when a publisher wants to put out a new game, they're going to say, oh, did you want to buy the game from us? Okay, here, that's $9.95, download the 3D printer files, because everybody's going to have 3D printers. Yes, you can go out and buy the game for $100, or you can buy it direct from us for $10 and print it out yourself. And in that world, digital is still going to fall behind, is still going to be left wanting. So yes, Alexander, I agree. It's ridiculous to me when publishers don't take just the tiniest bit of effort. There are so many people making mods for free, like yourself. It's just it's one of the best free publicities you can get. Alrighty, continue with Alexander. He then adds, board gaming is about physical components and gathering around a table eye to eye and won't get replaced. So basically, Alexander agrees. But that brings Alexander to his other hobby, connected to board games, print and play crafting. So he asks, do I think more publishers would benefit from offering up print and plays? What are my thoughts on print and play in general? Oh, I'm sorry, Alexander. I thought you were making TTS mods. I misunderstood. I put this Word doc together a week ago, and I don't really remember exactly what was here. I think print and play is great, too. I mean, I have a personal story about print and play. 10 years ago, when I first started doing Rahdo Runs Through, and I was just covering retail games and kickstarting board games was barely a thing at all. I was interested in backing Ground Floor and from Tasty Minstrel Games. And if you went to the Kickstarter page, you could download print and play files. So you say, don't buy it sight unseen. I mean, and they were one of the first publishers to do this. Here, download these files, print it out, try it for yourself, and then you'll know whether it's right for you. And so I did do that, and I ultimately backed it, and I liked the game. But I also ended up filming a run-through of my print and play. If you do search for Rahdo Ground Floor, I think it's Ground Floor. I'm pretty sure that's the name of the title. It's a business simulation game. You can watch it's absolutely horrible looking, my really crappy looking components and all that, but it did a really great job of letting players know for themselves. And yeah, there's just no reason not to do that. There's no reason not to do low ink versions so people can print it out without burning through their inkjet too terribly much, because they're lower quality and it's more about the gameplay. Make it look nice, but don't make it look too nice. That means it does not, get in the way of people wanting to have the real pieces, the sculpted miniatures, the proper silk screened meeples, the nice thick chipboards rather than just really crappy thin pieces of paper and all that. But people can play it. And here's the deal. Only, I'm sure you know this, Alexander, only the tiniest fraction of their already very tiny market that you are advertising to will actually take the time to print it out and play it. The vast majority of people say, yeah, that's too much work. But the people who do can become influencers, basically. I forget what they're called. I read a marketing book back when I was in the video game industry a million years ago. And it talked about mavens, which are kind of like people that the audience as a whole listens to. And so if you get a maven on board, which these days, of course, nowadays with social media, they're called influencers, then that can do everything. Get your game out. Get more people playing it, talking about it on Board Game Geek. The worst that could possibly happen is they print it out and say, oh my God, this game is terrible. And quite frankly, that's good feedback for you. Because who knows? Maybe your game is terrible. If all your testing has just been with friends and family, you might have a terrible game and they just are too polite to tell you. So it's all upside. It's not going to affect your bottom line at all. And it can only give you good, solid feedback to make the game better and help build a groundswell of support for when your game eventually goes to mass market. So yes, everybody should be doing that, at least for games where it's viable. I mean, a game that is, 300 cards, that doesn't make much sense. Who's going to go through all that trouble to print out and cut out and sleeve 300 cards? But, for certain games, I think it makes perfect sense, and I think it's great. And personally, that Ground Floor print and play I did that looked so terrible, it was like the sixth or seventh video I ever did, was a big hit for me. And in fact, Penny Arcade, the writer on Penny Arcade, which is a very popular webcomic, actually saw my video and posted about it, said, hey, this guy made a video. I don't know who he is, but it really helped me decide whether I was going to back. And it was one of the first things that really got my channel getting some traction. So yeah, nothing but good can come from print and play. Even if it feels like it's terrible because, oh my God, people hate our game, it's good you find that out now, before you pump all the tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars into producing the game. So yeah, that's my feeling about print and play. I think it's awesome. There's such a huge groundswell of support on Board Game Geek. Guilds devoted to it, Facebook groups devoted to it. Yeah, I mean, publishers, you should use that as a resource to make your games better and more popular. Alrighty, anyway, then Alexander continues, I'll never play a game digitally. Nothing against it. I only play it with my wife. However, get great joy from crafting a game that a publisher has put out digitally, meaning, the print and play. Of course, I do this for my personal use and not to make money. The reason for it isn't to save money. P&P may cost me even more than the game itself. That's true. That's why, it's really kind of limited. It's a niche people, but very passionate people like Alexander that you are getting on board if you do this, publishers. I simply enjoy crafting it as much as I do collecting and playing games. A game would be for publishers to offer free digital versions to the P&P community for our growing community. I don't think this would have negative effect financially. What do you think? Well, I didn't realize the third question was coming, but obviously I think no, it's not. It's such a small group, but a very passionate and outspoken group. The vast majority of results, if you put out a good P&P for a game that people like, all you've done is you've converted, many more of them will actually want to go out and buy the game than will say, oh, well, I've got this kind of janky homebrew version. I don't need to buy it anymore. There'll be a handful of people like that. The same is true for the digital. But the overwhelming response will be, no, this can only increase your overall sales and your bottom line. And so, yeah. I agree. I agree with your dream. And as I said earlier, as we move forward in time and we get to the point where 3D printers are as a common household item in Western houses as inkjet printers are today, it's going to change everything for our entire industry. And interesting times ahead. Okay, anyways, just curious to hear your thoughts. It was on my mind after Encyclopedia. Take care. Okay. Thank you, Alexander. Let's move on to Ashley. Ashley says, did someone mention ideas for a Euro Legacy shtick? Because that was a question. Hey, what would I want to see? What have Euro game legacy experiences not done yet? And I had some off the top of my cuff answers, but I guess Ashley has a better answer. She says, hey, you love multi-use cards? So do I. What if there were cards inside the cards? Like an envelope or whatever. Or a Mereshoika, I've never actually tried to say that. Russian doll using cards within cards. Probably be prohibitively expensive, but what if a card was hidden inside another card and as a decision you had to sacrifice an ability or power to rip it open and hope that what you get is better? So Ashley wants to bring loot boxes to board games. It helps you, but once you rip it open, you're stuck with it. In much the same way in loot boxes, once you buy it, you don't get your money back. I keep going. I could keep going on that line, but that's new and different. Take a multi-use cards. Yes, it is. And don't get me wrong. I mean, I don't mean to be disparaging it by drawing parallels to loot boxes. I mean, the thing is, you bought it, whether you open it or not. I mean, it's a physical item, so it's only tangentially equivalent of a loot box. I think that's very, very cool. I mean, I know a lot of people hate the notion of legacy games that make you destroy stuff, but I think that's a really cool idea. Now, here's the deal, though. Functionally, I mean, other than the really cool gimmick of, I guess it's kind of the reverse of, John D. Clare's Mystic Veil, where, hey, I've got a card and I can, I get these clear things and you can basically construct cards, build them over time. This is kind of the opposite, hey, there's a card and I'll destroy it to find the card that's inside. You could get that same effect by, hey, here's a card, I'm going to destroy it and get another card out of an envelope that was waiting. Or here's a card, I'm going to fundamentally change it by putting a sticker on it. So what you're suggesting, I think it has a really fun kind of gimmick factor, but functionally, it's no different than what board games are already doing in the legacy space. Is that the case? Is there something that a card within card could do? I mean, Mystic Veil or Edge of Darkness or, something heroes. I mean, there's like 3 or 4 of these games now, Canvas, etc., where you put more cards together to make a new card, where it's additive as opposed to subtractive. I guess it would be kind of interesting to take that idea and say, oh, look, here's your card. But over time, you remove stuff from it. But again, you could remove stuff from it by simply putting a sticker on it if you're making a legacy game. You don't have to actually construct this, what, as you are probably correctly guessing, would be a very, very expensive idea to put together. So I love it. I think it's a lot of fun, but I think it would be too cost prohibitive to ultimately get the same functional result as other cheaper alternatives, like stickers. Alrighty, but you're not done selling the idea, Ashley, because she then adds, in the same note, you could have slot together cards where you combine abilities to make something new, and you can't separate them again. Each card has 2 abilities. You can put 2 together for 1 card with 2 abilities, but using the right synergy, the 1 card with 2 right attributes. Again, this is what John D. Clare's work, what he introduced in Mystic Vale, and there's been a half a dozen other games. The idea of card construction is awesome. So I think people have already done it, and they don't have to take on the extra thing of somehow fusing them permanently together. I mean, to me, what makes Legacy interesting? I mean, the most important thing about a Legacy game is the gravitas, the tension, the pressure, the angst you have over, once I make this choice, I can never go back. Once I rip open the envelope or destroy the card or write on it or use a sticker, it can never be undone. And yeah, having a card buried within another card does that, but it just is in a much more expensive way. Alrighty. If that makes sense, you sacrifice 2 powers, you gain a power that maybe self-sustains, like proverbially sacrificing 2 fusion engines in order to gain a cold fusion in 1 engine. Yeah, I think all that stuff is cool, but it can be done right now in a much less... So, while I would love to do it, I would love to see a game that says, there's cards hidden inside your cards. That's just really, really neat. I mean, heck, I'd take it one step further. For a while, it was all the rage to say, look under your insert, there's hidden stuff. And now, I don't think you can get away with it anymore. I think everybody's who plays these kinds of games. First thing is, okay, let's open the insert. Let's see if there's nothing hidden underneath the insert. Everybody does that now. But could you hide something in the board itself? Would people notice if there was if you could take a slit and pull a card out of it? I don't know. That's kind of fun. But it's a nice idea. But I just don't know how practical it is when there are cheaper alternatives. But thanks, Ashley. Keep those ideas coming. Alrighty. Daniel says, did I have the description of the game I'm doing a run-through of prior to my addition of, important note, rude or dismissive, blah, 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 blah? I thought you did. But I might be mixing YouTube and Facebook posts. Long story short, Daniel's asking, did I replace descriptions of games with my important note? And so what he's talking about there is, if you watch any video on my channel, it opens with a disclaimer, because about a year ago, I made some missteps, some terrible missteps, and in the, using my online platform for bad, quite frankly. I didn't mean to. It was, but it's still, I ended up hurting people. And in the process of trying to rectify and learn where I'd made mistakes so I wouldn't screw up again, people made it clear to me that, hey, you know how for years, for the entire life of Rahdo Runs Through, you just let anybody post anything they want on your channel? And yeah, you'll take the time to probe them and say why what they're saying is terrible. But that has ultimately led you into situations where you're talking about rape, or other terrible, really horrible things, and you're letting them win because all they want is your attention. You're never going to convince them of anything. Why are you doing that? And I realized, why have I been doing that? Why have I been pulling my hair out for a decade interacting with trolls? I was on a mission to civilize. I thought I could, and it eventually realized, oh my God, I have not convinced anybody. And all I've done is become a platform where trolls can come and complain about my SJW tendencies and get more of an audience through my hard work than they could ever get anywhere else. And so I realized, well, I should stop freaking doing that. And I should make it very, very clear that henceforth, if anybody wants to be rude or dismissive or aggressive or anything, I have no time for you. You're gone. You're just done. Your post will never see the light of day. And so I retroactively added that to every single video on my channel. It's right up there bold because I'm trying to scare away trolls, and I'm also trying to signal to everyone that, look, if you want to come and comment on my channel, there's not going to be some dick some jerk who is going to try and diminish you or make you feel terrible or make you feel like an idiot because you're not a real gamer or whatever it is. My comment channel is constantly, I check it multiple times every day. Let good, positive, and that's not to say there can't be constructive criticisms, but they got to be constructive criticism instead of dickwad criticisms, which is what the vast majority of the internet is. So I now like to think that my little neck of the woods is, I am so much happier. It is so much easier for me to maintain. I'm only dealing with positive, upbeat people now. That's who tends to come. I've noticed ever since I included that, the jerks just don't show up anymore. They realized, oh, he's not letting my venom onto his channel. I guess there's no reason for me to come. And they've left. And they haven't come back. It's great. I recommend every YouTube channel do it. Basically, there's a switch you can flip. I talked about all this when I announced all of this a year ago in a video called My Code of Conduct. And I walked through, hey, if you have a YouTube channel, here's how you can do something similar to make sure that you will have a positive uplifting and affirmative, a wonderful community instead of a community where, oh, let's check the comments. Oh, I just don't think I want to deal with that today. Maybe I'll deal with that tomorrow. So anyway, Daniel's asking, when I did that, so this is at the start of every one of them, and did I replace something? I'm sorry, that was a very long-winded answer, Daniel. Let me just say, no, I didn't. My old YouTube descriptions were always, hey, this is the name of the game, here's the link to it on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, and then here's the links to the final thoughts or the extended or to the extended version of this video or whatever it might be. That has always been everything. There was never and by the way, here's a paragraph describing the game and saying how many player count there was or anything like that. I've never done that. I have always felt that me putting the link to Board Game Geek to the page for that game was enough. Because, hell, that was an interesting video. I'll go ahead and follow the Board Game Leak, and now I can learn all this other stuff about the game. Because I'm the biggest Board Game Geek fan in the world, so that has always made the most sense to me. So no, the addition of that proviso at the top of all of my videos has not removed anything else. In fact, I used a very cool tool called TubeBuddy, which is fantastic. I love it. I pay whatever it is, $6 a month. Not for all its analytics and whatnot, because it has a lot of really great automation tools. Like I can, with the push of a few buttons, I can apply a string or remove a string of text or whatever I want to whatever I have. I have like 8,000 videos on my channel now over the 10 years I've been going. So, and I can just instantly deploy that everywhere. TubeBuddy is awesome. Not that I'm getting paid to say that, but I love it. So anyway, no, Daniel, no changes there. Phew. Okay. Let's move on to Jason, who says, hey, Rahdo, long-time listener, first-time caller. I wasn't sure if questions was the right place for this, but I figure I'd float it over to you since you've never seemed to mention it. I, says Jason, have a substantial collection, 500-plus games, and it's always difficult to use the Board Game Geek search options to query games. I've bestowed much information over the years about ways to get data out of BGG for my rankings, my lists, etc., but Jason has not heard me mention this before. But for the last several years, Jason's been using geekgroup.app. That, again, for people who are listening and want to write this down, geekgroup, one word, .app. I thought I might help you and others. You can hit your collection here, sorted by rating. The site offers so many filtering and sorting options, it really opens up a whole new world. You can filter by game weight, recommendations, or player counts, designers, publishers, even game mechanisms or categories. And for example, here's a list from my collection, from my Rahdo collection, of all the flippin' rights and rollin' rights, or random and rights, that are recommended for 2 players that I have added to my collection since January 1st, 2021, sorted by my ranking. Let's follow that. Let's take a look and see that in action. All right, the link is coming up, and yeah, that is a very specific, if I wanted to get that information, I could have pulled that out of a Board Game Geek advanced search, but it would have been a pain in the ass. It would have required multiple searches. It would have required me doing some legwork afterwards. And whereas you've just set up a bunch of filters here, right? Change filters. Yeah, there's just a bajillion filters I can turn on about, it looks like almost every metric Board Game Geek has. This is cool. I can see how that is very, very useful. Let's go back to your question. Alrighty, the system really allows me, continues Jason, to hone my searches when trying to find a game for a game night. Maybe you're going to be playing a game with Jen and your mom, so you search a collection for best at 3. Nothing too complex, so let's reduce the weight between 1 to 2.5, and maybe Jen dislikes auctions and bidding, so let's exclude those. And then, hey, he's done a search for that. Let's take a look at that one. And somebody else is doing a commercial besides me. That's cool. Let's see. So if I come back to the browser, so that suggests, I think the 2.5 is a bit too heavy for my mom. Let me change that. Let me say, oh, that's not, all right. So we're going to see if I can find it. There's mechanisms. Is it under general probably? Yeah, general. Weight. Not 2.5. Let's say 1 to 1.5 or even 0 to 1.5. What does that get me? It's thinking. Because, yeah, my mom can handle it. So it says Ticket to Ride London, Trek 12 Himalaya, Rolled West, and Tulip Fever. I think that's pretty spot on. I think my mom could handle Ticket to Ride London. And I know she can handle, I think she can handle, that is a very successful use case. I have to say, Jason, well done. Although, I was able to use, the tool was so easy, I was able to tweak it on the fly and actually customize it a bit more than you did. So that's pretty cool. Let's continue. Okay. All right. Anyhow, I'm not affiliated with the site. It's just so helpful. I wanted to pass it on to you and the audience. Hopefully it helps on the fly top 3s on the R&R show. Oh, that's a good point. That is a very good point. Yeah, because when we have to do top 3s, I just always go right to the advanced. I've been aware of this site for ages. I actually have it as a bookmark. I just never really use it very much because I just don't think I'd ever spent much time with it. But you're right. You have made a very strong argument to me and everybody watching and presumably everybody listening. So that address again, folks, if you have a sizable collection and you're having a hard time keeping it under control, what was it? It is geekgroup.app. Thank you, Jason. I see no questions in there, but that's okay. I think that was very worthwhile. Thanks. Okay, now we move on to Joseph, who says, the weekly contest is amazing. He's talking about the every week on the R&R show where Will and I give away games if you can spot the secret word in the show. It's also great seeing how you two plan it out during the pre-show. I was wondering, however, what would you do if Ruel or I forgot to say the secret word? I'm changing my tenses throughout. Sorry, folks. I imagine it would be a tricky edit. That's a very good point. It hasn't happened yet. I know when I sign up for I'm going to do the secret word, I actually have it written down right next. Behind the scenes, for folks who watch the R&R, I have literally just Notepad open. And I have a file called banner.txt. And whatever string is at the top row of that file is what's going to appear on the banner of the run-through. And so when we change banners, we are literally just editing a text file. So when we put number 8, Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig, number 7, Tawantin Suyu, or whatever, we are literally copying and pasting lines of text. And so to ensure that I don't miss, that my secret word is toupee, I have to say toupee, I literally put the word toupee right next to the text I'm copying and pasting so I can't miss it. So I haven't missed one yet. I don't think Ruel has missed one yet. But if we got to the end of a show, and then the live audience said, hey, listen, using the little stickers they can use with audio stings to get my attention. And then we said, we never said it. Oh my God, Ruel, you said you were going to say it. You never said it. I think what I would have to do is I would probably say, okay, that's fine. I'll clean this up later. And I would, like I said, I'd have to make a tough edit. I'd go back and I would listen for some place where I could slip the word in. And I hate editing video, but I've been doing it for years now, and I'm pretty good at it. And I've even gotten to the point now where I have a consistent recording setup. This third bedroom in our house, which is 100% devoted to all my games and all my recording stuff. Every time I sit down and record, the sound quality is pretty much exactly the same. So there have been occasional videos where if you're looking close at my lips, you'll see, oh, everything's lip synced, but then one word is completely, or like one sentence is completely wrong, and then it goes back correct again. That's because I did go back in and, okay, I'm going to completely re-record that entire sentence because it was really wrong. And if people are looking at my lips in the little picture-in-picture, they'll see I go off, and most people don't even notice. So that is what I would do. I don't like it. It's kind of a lot of work, but hopefully it just won't happen. But that answers your question, Joseph. And lets other people know that, did you know you have a chance to win a game every week if you watch the R&R show and catch the secret word? Anyway, let's move on to Matthias, who says that, let's see, he points out that I've mentioned many times that the audience should ignore my final thoughts. It's come up again in a recent podcast, actually. And while Matthias does understand what I'm talking about, he also thinks it would be the thoughts are more useful than I think. Some of the audience have been following for 10 years. So even though I know very little about you, random listener or viewer, knows me and Jen very well. Matthias continues, we know which aspects that I tend to like and dislike about a game. We know how important a two-player support is and the absence of negative player interaction, etc. Also, the final thoughts are usually not just an opinion, but a recap of quite a lot of aspects of the game. Now, I'll agree with you there. I recognize every time I say, please ignore my final thoughts, I would want to proviso, please ignore the subjective opinion portion of my final thoughts, but watch it anyway, because there's probably a few things that didn't come up in the run-through that I wanted to mention in passing about this particular feature or that particular feature or, some kind of limited time offer or who knows what. So I'm really doing the audience a disservice when I say disregard my final thoughts, when really what I mean is disregard my final subjective personal opinions about the quality of the gameplay. It's just, that's not quite as pithy as please ignore my final thoughts, as you can imagine. Anyway, so Matthias continues, when I first read a rulebook and then watch your final thoughts or even a roundup, I generally have enough information whether it'll be a good fit for us. I rarely watch the run-through these days. Totally understandable. That leads me to the question. Don't you and Jen... Oh, okay. All right. Well, let's see. Before I go into the question, I want to explain myself because I'm guilty as charged. I really shouldn't say that. But I feel I have to. That I am overstating because I am trying to course correct, not for you, Matthias, who have been watching for 10 years and know my predilections. I am overstating that for the brand new watcher. This is the first video they've ever seen from me. And they go and they're relatively new to games. And they're like, whoa, wow, he really likes that game. I bet it's the best game I've ever played. I should run out and buy it right now from Amazon. Boom, 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 done. And that's it. That happens a lot. And that makes my skin crawl to think of any time that somebody has picked up a game based on my recommendation and then it turns out not to be a good fit for them, because I won't deny the fact I'm a very good salesman. I have had tons of actual sales training, going all the way back to high school when I was trained literally to be a door-to-door vacuum cleaner salesman. You can watch the R&R show for that backstory. In college, I worked for a year at a phone survey place, and so you had to be a salesman to get once you got somebody on the phone, to keep them on the phone and answer your 5 million questions about how you're voting in the 92 election, and not lose them. You need to be a salesman for that. And then after I was in the video game industry, I once again got media training from world-class professionals, so for my publisher paid for, so that when I would go out to the media, I would know how to put forward a message that would resonate with viewers. So not for everybody, of course. Some people just can't stand my cadence, my kind of goofy, offbeat, spontaneous nature. I totally understand I'm not for everybody, but I still think I'm kind of objectively a very good salesman when I put my mind to it. And so I very, very much worry about using my skills for evil. And people ending up, if you ever meet me at a convention, and if the first thing you say is, oh, I've gotten so many games because of your videos, my first question every time is, oh, please tell me I haven't steered you wrong. Please, because I'm terrified of that, because games are freaking expensive. And I don't want people making a mistake because of me, because they don't understand. They don't have the 10 years of experience that you do, Matthias. And so that's why I feel I have to take a stance, and I have to say, look, I know in my final thoughts, I made it sound like the second coming. I know it's the best thing since sliced bread, or at least that's what you would be led to believe based on how excited I personally am, based on my personal peccadillos. Please disregard that, because it took me 10 minutes, 20 minutes to record that. It took me hours to make the run-through. And if you watch the run-through, you should be able to decide for yourself it's fun. You don't have to trust my opinion, because you and I are different people. And you're still new at games, and you haven't quite realized that there is no such thing as a universal game that works for everybody. So that's why I am overstating my case. Because, hey, the people who've been here for 10 years, you know full well to ignore that, or to, more importantly, ignore the personal opinion, or you know my opinion so well that you can parse it, as you say. But new viewers can't, And so that I am addressing that message towards them primarily. Sorry, it's something that gets asked every once in a while. Why do I say that? And that's why. I just wanted to put that out there. So if anybody ever asks again, I can say, go check out this particular episode of the Rahdo Talks Through podcast. But anyway, to your actual question now, Matthias. Don't Jen and I have reviewers, podcasters, artists, authors that we don't know in person, but we know, who we know, we got to know so well via media that their opinion or final thoughts are actually useful or valuable data to us? If so, do you have some gaming or non-gaming examples? Jen does not pay attention to media of any sort at all. Not at all. Jen, the only thing she watches on YouTube is videos by fellow glassmakers teaching techniques. If you were to look at her YouTube history, it's 90% people in front of a torch showing some cool way to make some twist glass in 2,000 degree heat. That's all she watches on YouTube. The only thing she watches on Instagram, which she's kind of got it addicted to, just flicking through little short videos, is funny dog and cat videos and people doing amazing things. If it's a review, she skips right past it. She doesn't care. The only place she gets any kind of opinion about anything is comments on Amazon, that kind of a thing. And of course, we don't know anybody there. So I can say definitively for Jen, no, there's not a single person out there other than just friends and family, people in her personal life who would recommend a game or a show or a movie or a book. That's the only recommendation she cares about at all. So in my case, oh yeah, there's plenty of people who I know exactly. I mean, when a video, Tom Vassell rarely surprises me. I've watched enough of his videos. I know what he likes. I know what hangups he has. I know what he'll rant about. I know what he'll rave over. And honestly, because of that, I've pretty much stopped watching his videos. I don't need his videos. Once upon a time, Tom was a very good resource for me. And once upon a time, he misled me because I thought, oh, well, he's a really experienced guy. He knows what he's talking about. He must be right. And over time, I realized, oh, no, he's often wrong. He's often very, very wrong. No offense to Tom. Hey, we all have our own personal things. And, I'm sure Tom would agree. His opinions should not be applied universally to everybody. And it's certainly the case, but for me, you're a longtime fan, Matthias, I don't get any game sight unseen. I read the rulebook for any game I'm ever going to look at. I don't care if Tom liked it, or Shut Up and Sit Down liked it, or a Heavy Cardboard liked it, or a Thinker Themer liked it. It doesn't matter to me. Because as we've just discussed, I know full well that they have their own things, and I can pretty much easily guess whether they're going to like it or not. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the proof is in the pudding. Who published it? Who designed it? What does the rulebook say happens? Those are the only three metrics I care about when I am deciding whether I'm going to get a game or not, or whether I'm going to accept a game for reviewing. So it's certainly there. It's not of any great use to me because you're right. It's so obvious. What's the point? Now, that's because it's literally my job. Oops, my earbud fell out. It's literally my job to read at the very least, hundreds of rule books every year. I literally, that is my career. It's maybe the most important part of my job is reading these rule books. I realize most of my audience does not have time for that. That's why most of my audience watches my videos, because they've got the rest of their life to do. So, again, I only make that stance to try to counteract the very, very easy to fall into trap of, oh, this guy, he seems fairly articulate. He knows a lot about games, and he says it's great. I should buy it. I don't need to watch the run-through. And like, geez Louise, you need to watch the run-through more than anybody else if that's your response to my final thoughts. Which is why I've always been so happy that at this date, still, an average run-through, about only half of the total views go towards the final thoughts, which is to say, if the game has if the run through has 10,000 views, the final thoughts is going to have 5,000 or 6,000 views as a general, or even less. And that's the way. I like it. Because there's too much writing on this. These games are expensive and getting more expensive all the time. Alrighty, next up, Matthias says, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, by the way. Matisse, it might be. Maybe I should say Matt. Matt then continues. You've said before that the BGG rating system is flawed, which Matt views as a fact. And because of that, when I get rid of a game, I remove its rating. But as Matt said above, since we know the audience knows my gaming taste very well, the rating that I gave a game is actually very, very fast and even reliable. First check of a game, see if it's interesting. Well, here's the deal, Matt. If you want that, there's 50 billion ways to get in contact with me. I am Rahdo on Board Game Geek. I am Rahdo on Twitter. I check every day. I am Rahdo Runs Through on Facebook. I am Rahdo Runs Through on Instagram. I am Rahdo on Patreon. You can add comments on any video on anything on YouTube, and I will see it. If you want to know, if you want that quick and easy, just ask. I'll tell you. I'll tell you everything. And that's my feeling, because everything I said about the above applies even more to a simple little, Rahdo gave that a 2. It must be the biggest pile of garbage in the history of games. If Rahdo gave it a 2 out of 10, oh my gosh, that must be a burning dumpster fire of a game. When in fact, no. I would give I would give a 2 to because of my predilections. I do not feel it is responsible for me to wield the power I have to destroy games. Which is why, if I didn't like a game, sorry, you don't get a single-digit number. You get me actually writing out in paragraph form why I got rid of that game. That's what you get, because I'm not going to let you make a decision off of a single number. And again, not because of you, Matt. You're an experienced viewer. You've been with me for a decade. I'm talking about all the new people, because there are hundreds of thousands of people discovering modern board games for the first time every single day around the world. That's not an exaggeration at all. Talk to Scott Alden sometime about how many new subscribers he gets, to Board Game Geek every year, and I do not want to lead those folks astray. Which is why, honestly, I should take all my rankings off Board Game Geek completely, because me giving something an 8.73291, it could be just as problematic. But at the least in that case, there's a video. And at least if you go watch the video, you can decide for yourself. If you go, it's so important. I'm going to bring back the browser. Sorry for folks who can't see, but if you go to games.rahdo.com, and you get a list of every run through I've ever done, and you can see, hey, my Legends of Andor is my number 32 of all time, right? Predaporter is my number 65 of all time. That doesn't mean you're going to like it just because it's in my top 100. And by the same token, something I rated low, like Eaten by Zombies, I gave a 7.1. For you, it might be a 10, depending on who you are. So the important thing is, you can see my number, but more importantly, you can click the happy little button right next to it and then watch the run through and decide for yourself. That is what I always want. Stay away from my personal subjective opinions. Watch the run through, because that will help more than anything. So that's just where I come from. Anyway, though, let's get back. So, and I appreciate you sticking with me for a decade. Hopefully I haven't lost you with this. Anyway, though, so that's why I am loath. And honestly, I often feel like I should create a new Board Game Geek account that nobody knows what it is and keep all my ratings there. That's really what I feel I should do when it boils right down to it, because people are too quick to, I don't have time for this. Just tell me what the best game of the year is. Okay, fine. I'll buy it. Done. Moving on. And then again, it's like, oh my God, I hate this game. That happens all the freaking time, and anything I can do to ensure that I'm not part of that is a good thing in my case, to my mind. Okay. Anyway, then we get to Lance's question. And I'm not going to read Lance's entire email. If you're watching this, you can pause right now and take a look at it. He basically tells a story of reaching out to another media content person, and he had a less than ideal response, he felt. He was left a little unsatisfied. So I'm not going to go into that, not going to litigate that, other than to say, Lance, I'm sorry that happened. I know the person in question. I have spent many hours with this person. I know they're a good person. Sometimes they just get into a groove. It happens to me too. Sometimes somebody will ask me a question that just prompts me to, boom, okay, I've got this almost pre-prepared rant. I'm just going to slip that in here. And I think that's what happened with you. I'm sure it was no hard feelings, but still, I'm sorry that you found that unsatisfying. But your question to me, Matt, is, as a media creator, what are my thoughts on how to answer people as someone who is requesting questions? Yeah, because I say, hey, folks, give me questions to the podcast. And do I try to think about the way people will take my answers into consideration? Yeah, that's a very good question. And I thought that was actually worth talking about, to talk a little bit about me and how I go about it. And this goes beyond just people sending questions to questions@rahdo.com. Folks, send your questions to questions@rahdo.com, or I got no show, as I've mentioned several times now. This goes into everything, every interaction I have on the internet. I always try to treat each and every one of them as if it's not an email, it's not a comment, it's not a meme, but it's a real human being standing in front of me or sitting at the same table I'm sitting at. I always try to do that. And now, first of all, I don't always succeed at that. I am human, and sometimes I fail. I mentioned briefly earlier, last year I failed epically poorly at this. And one of the most, I still am beating myself up over the events of last year, which you can find out if you go and check out, do a search for Rahdo Code of Conduct. That can lead you to what had come before. Or podcast episode of this podcast, episode 70, if you would like to know more about the biggest mistake I ever made as a grown-ass man, talking about board games, and ended up hurting a lot of people. And so, Rahdo Talks Through, episode 70, if you want to know more about that, if you've missed it. But anyway, and then after that, the the code of conduct that came out of it. So, but I still try to. And that is certainly the case when I'm answering questions. And I will admit, like probably what happened to you. Sometimes people ask a question that's adjacent to an answer I already have queued up in my head that I'm more than happy to talk about again. And sometimes I go the wrong way. It can be a misunderstanding or whatever. But, it's always how I've tried to pursue myself. And, back when I used to deal and try to interface with trolls and try to get them to be more civil, I would actually try and look, can you just imagine for half a second that you and I are actually sitting at a table together at a restaurant? Is this really what you would say to me? Really? Wouldn't it be something more like this? And if so, why didn't you say that to me in your comment? Why did you go that other way? I used to do that all the time. And what I always found is it just made the troll go away because they weren't having any fun anymore. And that's why, as I discussed earlier, I realized, okay, I was banging my head against the wall for no good reason for years. But I still do that. And I don't always succeed, but that is always my goal, that I try to put myself, I always try to assume. It's so easy for us, for board game media people, to forget. This kind of dovetails into the last question too, about the vast majority of games I cover, I got for free. How can I meaningfully give estimations of the relative value of this game when I got it and most every other game I'm covering for free? My voice is completely invalid there. And I have to remember that the people I'm talking to, hey, maybe this is just because I have played this particular mechanic, oh my God, I just said mechanic. This particular mechanism 5,000 times. And to me, it's a little old and a little stale. Doesn't mean it's not really well done. And for somebody else, this is the first time they'd ever see that mechanism. And it's perfect for them with the mesh of theme. I always try to bear that in mind. That, the other person is a real human being. I assume, I try to go out of my way to assume that their question, even if I think it's a stupid question, comes from a legitimate place, which is, the culmination of their life experiences. And their life experience means, hey, it's only the third game they've ever played. And just because I think it's boring and old hat, I've kind of dovetailed into subjective opinion about games and how I kind of do that. Because often there will be, I will cover a game and I'll say, wow, this is a really great example of X. And I will see lots of other viewers saying, oh my God, X is so done to death. Why are you giving us more X? And that makes no sense to me, because it does what it set out to do. It did. Roll and write. So many reviewers, whenever they review a roll and write, they have to throw in, man, I'm so sick of roll and writes. And here we go with another. All right, let me tell you about it. And if you're anything like me, you're sick of roll and writes too. And I'm like, I would never say that. I mean, first, I'm not sick of roll and writes, but even if I was, I'd say, well, personally, having played 200 roll and writes over the last 3 years, I feel like I've seen it all. But still, I can say this game does this particular roll and writing so well. It achieves this and this and this. And while honestly, it could have been a bit better about that, I think as a whole, if you're looking for a game that has this particular mechanism and it's combined with this theme, it might be something for you. You will often hear me say, it might be something for you, because who cares if it's something for me? And that's reflective of my overall attitude, trying to project my mind, trying to walk a mile in the other person's shoes. And that is certainly the case with these as well. For a while, for a couple of years, in the personal section of the podcast, there were a few folks who were regularly, who were Trump supporters and whatnot, and were regularly writing in, I'm not going to say inflammatory, but, no, I mean, because there was no malice to them whatsoever, but they were inflammatory. They were inflammatory, but still coming from a good place. And sometimes it was very frustrating for me to try to say, oh, Jack, you know who, it's another Jack attack, folks. Let me dismantle everything Jack just said. And it'd be so easy for me to basically dismiss Jack, when in fact, he's a good person. He just has different worldview than I do as a result of his life experiences led so far. And so, Jack, I hope you would agree that no matter how frustrating it was, eventually I had to say, I can't handle this anymore. Jack, could you please hold off on the attacks for a while? And Jack has very graciously done so. Thank you very much, Jack, wherever you are. But I hope Jack and others would say that I always handled their questions from a place of respect, and even if I found them, the observations questionable at best, let's say. And to be fair, not always. Sometimes I have a real sarcastic streak. My wife has referred to me privately, she wouldn't like me saying this, as a real sarcastic asshole many, many times in our relationship, because she gets the full brunt of my sarcasm. And most of the time she really likes it and it makes her laugh. But it is something I try to tamp down wherever possible when I'm on camera, because not everybody has been married to me for over 30 years. So I'm always trying to keep that in mind. It's very important. Okay. Then let's move on to Ross, who has decided to back Sleeping God's Distant Skies because Ross loves giant worlds where you're free to explore in board games. Well, that's what Secret Gods was, so I'm sure Distant Skies will be fantastic for that. Ross says, I probably already covered this, but the idea of big, lengthy games makes Ross curious to know what my relationship with a legacy or campaign game is like in terms of my lack of time, gameplay schedule / busy schedule. Whenever one of my listeners or viewers suggests an idea that involves me playing games that are not part of the queue of games that are waiting. I mean, in the room next door, I've got 50-some games that need to be filmed because they have been sent for coverage by publishers. And so I always go to that. I just don't have time to do a really in-depth retrospective on something that it would be a very cool idea and make a really good video. I just don't have time. So Ross is pointing that out. There's a permanent shelf of new games that are always waiting to be played. Right, in the back of my mind, I can't put them away because. So yeah, he's summed up. It makes total sense. And I've also, says Ross, heard you say how when you retire, you're finally going to get to dive into Seventh Continent and other games like that, which I don't have time for. So Ross is pretty sure that the time that Jen and I used to play Gloomhaven had to stop. Ross is correct. For almost a year, or at least 9 months, Jen and I set aside every Sunday was Gloomhaven Day. There was no reason to play it. We'd already covered the game, put it in top 10s and all that. We were playing it just for fun, to no effect other than just enjoying it because we loved it so much. Right, but eventually that had to stop. But to bring it back to the original question, how do I feel about having to play through an entire campaign or legacy game when it becomes part of my job in order to film a final thoughts video? I don't have, Ross says that I don't have time to play a standalone game more than a couple of times before filming the run-through and moving on, and yet I definitely have completed big time-consuming projects like Rise of Queensdale, Pandemics, Legacies, Clank Legacy, etc. And of course, there are also campaign games like Alexander Pfister narratives, such as Cloud Age and Maracaibo, where you've played up to 10 times, that is true, to get through the stories. When you're playing these, are you able to enjoy the experience? Or by the time your game 7 or 8 rolls around, are you stressing, thinking, this is taking too long, I've got too many games I need to play? Or do you go into it knowing that you'll only be playing this one game over and over for about a week and you're okay with that so long as you can plan around the time commitment? Wow, that question turned out to be longer than I thought it would be. Yes. It's a good question, and I think you nailed it. Yeah. Well, first of all, more and more. I got the new Maracaibo Uprising expansion. I would love to play through that storyline. I have not done so. I have played through the first 2 chapters of it, and then I just went ahead and I peeked at the rest to get a sense for what else was going to happen in the storyline. Because the reality is, for those kinds of things, little changes and tweaks, I don't need to play those to get a good sense for what the core gameplay experience has. A legacy game, the core experience is the idea of the game changing and morphing and evolving. So I can't really speak to the overall quality of the game without experiencing it. So a legacy game I'll still play through because generally speaking, legacy games make huge changes. And actually, a legacy game that makes almost no changes at all, I'll probably just stop after a few games in and then just open the rest of the envelopes and just, okay, oh, look, yep, confirmed, hardly anything changed. This didn't even need to be a legacy game. Because you're right, I just don't have time. I have to, and that's another reason, by the way, circling back to the earlier thing about ignore my final thoughts. Bear in mind, folks, I haven't played this game most of the time, 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, 50 times, 100 times. I've played it a couple of times. And I've filmed a run through, and that's it. So that's another reason to take all of that into account when I'm talking about what I think is good or bad. Now, having played, over 2,000 games over the last decade, I feel like I can get a pretty good idea of how good a game is from my first play. I can get a pretty good idea of how good a game is just from reading the rule book, quite frankly. And I personally find myself to be very rarely wrong because I am probably, one of the most experienced board game players in the world, quite frankly. I'm not the only one. I'm not saying there aren't other people who have played literally thousands of sessions of individual games over the last decade, but there aren't very many of us. And but that aside, I totally understand why somebody would say, you didn't play that game 15 times. You have no right to comment on the depth of it. And I'm like, dude, I played 3,000 games. I think I got it. I know what this game is doing. I knew what it was doing when I read the rulebook. But anyway, sorry. That's as an aside. These campaign games that are popping up all the time, I don't feel like, I played all the way through one storyline of Seventh Continent. And then I looked all the way through a second one and I saw that, those are some really interesting changes. But the game is still 85% the same. You're just seeing a new story, not new gameplay necessarily. And that made me realize, okay, I've got it. I played enough. And with every one of these games, it's going to be a different threshold where, you know what? That's a third game in a row where nothing changed. Let me just go ahead and see, nothing's ever going to change. Okay, we're done playing this game. I'm not going to finish this legacy experience. As opposed to this one where, geez Louise, we just opened a box and everything changes. I guess we got to keep going. And as you suggested, I will just have to adjust the schedule around that. On months when a new pandemic legacy comes out, and you to truly understand the experience you'll have there, you do have to play through because they radically change over the course of the game. Then, hey, you know what? That month, if you go back and look, there were probably fewer run-throughs than the previous month, and there were definitely more run-throughs the following month to make up for the fact. And I will not deny the fact that I'm probably going to be under a lot of stress, and so will Jen, trying to catch back up after we basically took a vacation from the regular amount of output that we have to do to be able to really dive deep on this game that felt like at the time really deserved it. So yeah, it's variable from game to game, but I am finding more and more. Like I said, most recently, I would love to play through all of the Maracaibo Uprising storyline expansion. And it kind of breaks my heart a little bit that I couldn't do that, but I still want to make sure nothing really changed. So I know the whole storyline. Someday I would like to go back and play it and experience it, but I know how it goes. And on one level, it was kind of fun to see that, especially because of the lens I looked through it, having played 3,000 plus games, that, okay, I can see what you do. That session would be a lot of fun. I hope to play that session someday, that chapter 7, because that's going to be really cool when that character shows up. But the story is spoiled, unfortunately. So that's pretty much how I handle it. Again, it's variable from game to game, but more and more I am finding I do not, for these kind of campaign experiences, have to put quite so much time in to get a real sense of the experience. Okay, and then last question from Ryan. I hope you'll share your thought on Thinker Themer's initial response to the Viticulture World expansion. I know you're a big fan of theirs, and Ryan found the video very powerful. My wife loves them, and I, says Ryan, need to pay more attention to their content. Yes, I am in awe. Wow. totally coincidence that something just hit my throat right there. Just gonna say, I was in awe of Amy and Maggie having the bravery to step up. I mean, knowing full well from personal experience the gates of hell they would be opening up of abuse they would get for just stepping forward and saying, hey, you know what? We were really excited about this game and we were disappointed that this happened. And we hope in the future things will be better. That's it. That's the TLDR, too long didn't read summary of their video, and yet I know firsthand, because I know them, just what a wall of fire came their way. And honestly, I admit, here's the thing, I actually saw their video before they made it public, because coincidentally, the week they were going to make that public was the week that they were going to debut on my channel with their Radlands video. And then they realized, oh, the timing is we worked it out with Jamie, we're going to put this up on a Thursday, and then we were going to do the Radlands thing on Friday. We were thinking maybe, we'll tell you what, here, why don't you watch the video now and tell us what you think? And maybe you'll agree that we should just put off Radlands for a week because it's going to be a long weekend. And so I got to see it early. And I was moved to tears by it. And more importantly, it was incredibly eye-opening because here's the thing. For folks who don't know, Viticulture World is a wonderful co-op expansion for Viticulture that introduces 7 new modules you can play through, each one modeled after a different region of the world and a different moment in history. And one of them is set in South America, and Maggie of Amy and Maggie from Thinker Themer is from South America. Viticulture is one of their favorite games, so it was the first thing they wanted to try. And Maggie was dumbstruck when she got into the game and saw, oh, yeah, okay, this is about the early history of viticulture in South America and all that. And oh! Here's Cortez and here's Pizarro, literal monsters of history. And the game expects me to say, oh, you know what? I'm going to hire Pizarro and help me succeed at my vineyard. And it was just such a shock to them that why would anybody think that's a good idea? Why would anybody think that putting a genocidal mass murderer in a gentle, warm, family-friendly game like Viticulture made any sense whatsoever? Because, well, hey, if they did one, in the Rhineland, should they put Hitler in? Should there be a Hitler card? You can just, here's the Hitler card, because this was a real historical character from this time in history. It's like, no, nobody would do that. But because of cultural expectations, because of the passage of time, because of of ignorance on a lot of people's parts, Jamie and me, I'll say me too, we didn't even think twice about that. I had actually played the South American map before I saw Amy and Maggie's, and I saw Pizarro, and there was like a line in the set about, hey, just so you know, we do not, we stand against everything these characters stood for, but they were important elements of history, so here they are in the game. And I thought, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. They put that in. And, oh, yeah, it's too bad. But I didn't really think twice about it because I didn't look at it through the lens of what was really happening. I was effectively playing Hitler cards. And if it had been a Hitler card, I was like, oh, what? And so they stepped forward. They were brave enough to point out that, well, just because you're not as familiar with my culture, if you're trying to recreate my culture, how about do it in a positive, uplifting way? How about not put a literal historical monster on the same footing as people who made positive contributions to my culture and history? And Jamie said, oh my gosh, you're right, of course. And so he took great expense to basically reprint replacements of those cards where he actually put real South American business leaders, including a woman from South America who I went and looked her up on Wikipedia. At the time, she was literally one of the richest people in the world. And it was like an incredible success story. And it's like, yeah, why wouldn't you, if you're making a game about the history of viticulture for families in South America, why wouldn't you put positive, uplifting things that people could aspire to? Moments from history that are aspirational and inspirational, rather than, oh, by the way, let's just kind of whitewash the history about this genocidal maniac and just put him right next to all these other like scientists and monks and stuff like that. And so it was eye-opening to me, and I think I won't be able to go forward. Because I've responded to stuff like that in the past. My go-to response is, I was pretty much the only media person saying when Five Tribes came out half a decade ago, wow, it's really crap that there are these slave cards here. This is just completely out of place and shouldn't be here. How is this a good idea? And eventually they changed it. But that was so pardon the pun, black and white. It was just so omnipresent. It was literally a black man bound, head down, in chains. And it was on a card that was right next to piles of gold and saffron. It's like, ah, this is so horrible. I was able to respond to that. I was able to internalize that. But, something more subtle to my worldview as Pizarro and Cortez being in a game about making wine, that just was in one eye and out the other, and I didn't think about it twice. And I'm so thankful that Maggie and Amy were brave enough to step forward, because I think it will ultimately make the industry a better place. I think all publishers will look to the example that Jamie, because all publishers say, I could have made that mistake too. We just didn't think about it. But now we will. And I think that's an example of the industry getting better and better and better as we move forward. It's baby steps. I wish it was faster. I wish human evolution and societal change could move at the speed it needs to. It never does, but it is moving. And Amy and Maggie were incredibly moving, and I recommend everybody watch. Just do a search for Thinker Themer Viticulture World on YouTube. You'll find it. It's a powerful video. I think it's an important video. And give them a like and a thumbs up and a subscribe, because I can't tell you what a wall of hate. They actually, another thing, my own connection to it. So we ultimately agreed, yeah, okay, that's fine. I was like, I'm inspired by your video. Your video has changed me. I'm so proud that you're going to be a part of my channel. I don't want to wait, but they're like, no, let's wait, because they have more experience in this than me. And then, I talked to them over that weekend, because they had never turned on okay, we're getting so much fire and so much heat and so much hate, such an unending wall of anger and hate, because all we said is, hey, could everybody just be a little bit more inclusive and think about other people's thoughts and feelings? And that, that they actually reached out to me because they wanted information that I knew, because I've been doing the, hey, no comment gets through without my approval. I knew how that system worked back and forth. So they had some question, well, okay, if we turn this on, what's going to happen is this and that and the other thing. And so I was so happy I could help them a tiny, tiny bit, because I know they had such a rough weekend there. And again, that's why I'm glad you brought it up, Ryan, because you are right. Amy and Maggie are freaking heroes of mine, that they were willing to step up and do that. And I'm glad it made a big difference to you too. Phew, okay, folks, and that is it. We are done with the general purpose game questions. However, there is a live studio audience watching me right now. So I am going to go and check to see if we've got any questions from the audience. We might want to throw in here as well. And then after we're done with that, we'll move on. There's a game question or two for Jen, and then we'll get to the personal stuff. So let me take a looky-loo. Okay. Whew. Oh, my goodness. Sorry about that, folks. I got a little verklempt there at the end. I should have known that would happen. I didn't think it would. And it's just a coincidence that happened to be the last question from Ryan, because it was in alphabetical order. But okay. Thank you for sticking out. I did hear in my ear, Raven Rose, thank you for resubscribing. Getting closer. Yeehaw, 4 months. Okay. Oh, geez. I got to collect myself a little bit. Okay, but it is at this point that I'm going to take a look at the queue of questions. Because remember, folks, if you comment starting with a question mark, then I can, it goes into a queue, and I'm going to take a quick look now and see if there are any of these that I should go on ahead and throw into the podcast, in which case I'll answer those. And then after that, if for any of these I didn't throw into the podcast, hey, I'll answer everything if you want to stick around. So let me go on ahead and just take a quick looky-loo. Right. So that's a general purpose thing. Ooh, that's a good one. Alrighty. And I say, downtime. What are your favorite examples of downtime? Ooh, that's a good one. Alrighty. A guide for all these faces and compartments. Alright. Oh, that's a bit more general. Alrighty. That's a personal one. Right. That's a personal one, not a gaming-related one. That's definitely, that's an oddball one. All right. This looks like only a few questions have come in, so that's okay. I mean, that's fine. Heck, maybe you guys and gals are sick and tired of my voice and you're ready to move on, but you feel compelled to make it through to the end. All right. So I think, yeah, it looks like there's just a few, but that's okay. We'll just do a few. There'll be a few more, and then the podcast portion of the show will be done. I've already done the unboxing, and we'll do a little bit of Q&A if there's anything else anybody wants to know. So, one last sippy sip though. Okay. Okay, folks, looks like we've got a few. First of all, MG101, which stands for Mom Gamer. I always say, hey, Mom, and I always feel weird every time I say it. I gotta say, hey, MG. She asks, Gloomhaven used to be my lifestyle game. What lifestyle game do I constantly go to now or wish I could go to these days? That is an excellent question. Well, in the near future, I'm hoping it's going to be Frosthaven, because that's coming. It's coming soon. And right now, it should be Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion, because we only played the first 5 missions of that. I mean, as a continuation of what I said, I played the first 5 missions because the truly new thing in Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lions was the way they did that tutorial. So I felt like I got to experience this entire tutorial, and then I got to experience a regular mission so that I can actually have well-rounded thoughts on what this experience is. But then, had to move on. Didn't play. There's like 20 more missions waiting for me there. I would love to finish that storyline before we go to Frosthaven. But for right now, I can definitely say the one I keep coming back to over and over and over again is actually Marvel Champions. And that is because, like clockwork, every month, or maybe sometimes every other month, I think they're switching to a bi-monthly schedule, whereas up till now they've always been a new monthly content. They release new content, and I get it, and then I play it, and then I have a great time, and I once again transported to one of my favorite things in the world, Marvel Comics of my childhood. So I'm getting a lot of play with that. It also helps that I'm playing them solo, because it's not just my time trying to get time to revisit a game over and over again, get it to the table in a given month. It's Jen's time too, because Jen's got a full-time job. She makes glass for a living, gamerglass.art, and she does amazing work. And every time she's playing a game, well, I mean, strictly speaking, the way we work it is I am paying her, out of the Patreon proceeds that I got, which I don't hide that at all. You go to patreon.com/Rahdo. You can see how much I make, how much I charge to do a run through. And, the lion's share of that money is going to Jen to make up for the fact that she's not spending all that time making more glass that she could sell. Marvel Champions plays great solo. So I've been doing that. That has been my lifestyle game. I do hope in the near future to maybe go back to Gloomhaven with Frosthaven, because it seems like there's so many cool things in Frosthaven now, and I feel like that game has a lot that I would need to play before I really dug into it. For a little while, a few months ago, Etherfields was. Because I went back and I played I think 2 or 3 games with Jen, and then I played a lot of it solo. I played another 10 games of it solo because I wanted to do a follow-up, because my original Etherfields, I'd only played 1 or 2 missions. So that was one. And, you know what I'd like to do? Man, I would like to spend more time with Unsettled, which is a space mysterious planet exploration co-op game. As I've got all the expansion content for it, and I've only played a tiny bit of it. I would so love to explore all 3 chapters of every planet with that game. I could imagine that could gobble up a lot of time for the next few months. But right now, the closest thing I've got to what you're asking is Marvel Champions, which honestly ain't bad at all. There is a reason that game is so monstrously successful. Okay, let's see here. Then what have we got? Alrighty. Ryan states, Ryan is it's Ryan Crichton of Knights Around a Table, who does how to play videos on my channel, and he does a great job. He says, I've been working on a Sea of Legends video, and it has me thinking about downtime. Sea of Legends removes the downtime from Merchant and Marauders, effectively. Sea of Legends is a kind of like Merchant and Marauders as a pirate game, on speed, because it just goes. So Ryan asks, because it's been on his mind, what are my favorite examples of downtime mitigation in games? Well, obviously, simultaneous play. I love a good simultaneous play game. When I did my top 10 gameplay mechanisms of all time years ago, one of my top rated ones was simultaneous action selection, like Fresco or Dungeon Pets or Roll for the Galaxy, where, okay, I got shields up, Captain. I got my pieces, I got my workers, I got my dice, whatever it is, and now I'm just going to solve this little puzzle here. I'm going to optimize this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to have to make some tough choices, and you know what? You're doing the same thing behind your shields, and we're both just having a great time, because I know a lot of people say, well, you know what? What's the point of playing a game if you're not constantly interacting with each other? I always point to the fact that sharing an activity together is interaction. It is valuable and meaningful as a socially bonding activity. Years ago, I read a psychological study that said the most important thing you can do as a parent for your kids is just be in the room. Even if you are that literal stereotype of a dad who comes home from a hard day's work, takes off his shoes, puts his feet up, and just reads the evening paper all evening long, if you do that in the room where your kids are playing with Legos, you are having a hugely positive impact on them. Even if you're not, oh, let me get down and roll around on the floor and play. That's great too. I mean, obviously that's even better. But I forget what it was. 80% of the job is just be there. Provide that sense of social connection. And for me and Jen, just being to sit at the same table at the same time, we love multiplayer solitaire games. For some people, it's a dirty word. For us, it's manna from heaven because, oh, good, I don't have to worry about hurting you. I don't have to worry about trying to outmaneuver you. I just have to, heads down, solve this problem in front of me, have a great time doing it, and I know you're having a great time doing it too. I know you are because every once in a while they say, oh, I'm not sure. Oh, could we re-roll those dice or whatever it is? And so we're having a wonderful shared experience. So for me, one of my favorite things, whenever I read rules that say, oh yeah, and by the way, everybody will secretly choose and then reveal at the same time what it is, I'm like, interested. Unless the rest of that game is garbage, I'm probably going to enjoy that game on some level because it destroys downtime for all intents and purposes. Now, that's not always the case because generally speaking, in all the games I just mentioned, I figure out my little puzzle significantly faster than Jen. But still, it is much nicer rather than that same experience drug out over 10 turns where I take my turn and I'm done in 30 seconds and then Jen takes 2 minutes. And then I'm done in 15 seconds and then Jen takes 5 minutes. And then I'm done in 5 seconds and my turns keep getting shorter and her turns keep getting longer because that's just, she's a very analysis paralysis prone player. So anything we can do along those lines, that's probably my favorite thing. Real-time gaming, of course, is just the obvious answer to that. I'm curious, Ryan, what you've thought about? Because those are really the two main things. What else could I think of as a means? Well, obviously, there's the structure of the design that allows that has a world state that is not going to change very much from turn to turn, where it's more about my own personal world that changes. Agricola. All the sizable changes happen on my farm, not on the main board. Small changes happen on the main board so that when I am waiting for Jen, I can be planning my next 3 moves. So that, I think, is a huge thing, too. And again, for a lot of people, that's the scarlet letter of multiplayer solitaire. If the world doesn't change because of things players doing, why am I even playing this game? Well, maybe so that there's not so much downtime because you can plan out your next turn. So stuff like that I very, very, very much value. It's an interesting question. I'm wondering, do you have things that you have thought that aren't because I feel like I just talked about the obvious stuff, the obvious choices a designer can make. Alrighty. Let's see here. And I think that looks like it, folks. So what we are going to do next is move on to another game-related question, and then Jen will be here. So hang on. We'll be right back. Boop, boop. Okay, folks, I am done. And there are more questions. I will answer some more of them now. And although, let me get a sip first. Let me turn off the whatsy. And let's see how you're doing. Is everybody okay? Is everybody having a good time? Let's see. Okay. Oh, man. You folks have been talking about all kinds of stuff. So that's the tricky thing. I feel like I should now systematically go through this entire chat, look for stuff. But this whole put a question mark on, it really does limit the amount of back and forth I have with you. But it's so much easier. It's so much easier. So let me just go on ahead and hit these first really quick. Alrighty. Goblin says... where is it? A question I saw recently. I didn't have an answer. What's a solo game that does not have turns? What's a game that doesn't have turns? What does that mean? What is a game that doesn't have turns? That does not break down the gameplay into a discrete series of actions and reactions, which I guess is pretty much how you would define a term in board game forms. It's a quantifiable set of player actions and appropriate reactions before an action reaction stage, and then a next turn begins when you take more actions. So to have a game that does not have turns would have to mean that actions and reactions are completely divorced from each other, and I can just keep doing actions however I want. Then a solo game without turns would be playing What's it? Yeah. The David Short game, the wonderful little co-op dice chucking game, not Bomb Squad. Oh, what's it called? The sequel to it is called Flatline. Oh, that's gonna drive me nuts. I gotta go to the Board Game Geek and look it up. Board Game Geek. Fuse is a game that you can play solo, and it's a very satisfying solo game where you take no turns. You just simply do actions as fast as you can. I mean, I think to have any game without turns, you're going to have an external timer that means the game's schedule is divorced from yours. Because if the game schedule is tied to mine in any way, shape, or form, then the game has turns. So that's a very interesting philosophical question. I think I've answered it correctly. You'll have to let me know if I did. Alrighty. Right. Kabuki, I thought you were leaving. Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out. Okay. And there's a reference that only the Gen Xers and above get. Alrighty. Kabuki says, I know you're more of a TV guy in recent years, but what's the last great movie that I watched? Great movie that I watched. I think, first of all, I should put aside Marvel movies. I mean, and actually, I think I would, because I love Marvel movies with all my heart, but I realize that they are not truly great movies. Man, I do not keep track of movies I watch, though. I will say the first thing that pops into my head as a truly monumental movie, I cannot remember the name of it. It was a German movie about a government wiretapper. And, the whole movie, it's kind of like the John Travolta Blowout, except it was set in Germany and it was very somber. And that was an amazing movie. I can't think of the name of it, though, because I saw it like 10 years ago or something like that. Maybe somebody in the chat knows what that is. But, okay, what have I seen more recently? All right, tell you what. Let's go back to the Google and let's say top 100 movies of last decade. And let's see which of those I've seen and which of those I think were truly, truly great. All right. Oh, yeah. Let's just do it according to Internet Movie Database. Okay. Is it opening? Yes. Movies this are... No, oh, this is somebody's personal favorites. No, I need things based on rankings. Alrighty. What is what is an authoritative one of that? I mean... Okay. What is this list? Is this that personal guys list again in a different format? All right, okay. Rolling Stone says they've got their 50th best movies of the 2010s. Okay, but they're putting superhero movies on here too. But okay, I'm just going to use this anyway. Let's go on ahead and look at that. Let's go back to the browser. There we go. So, Black Panther is a great Marvel movie. It's a great movie in terms of societal impact. A great movie itself, though, on its own ranking, no, it is not. It totally does not earn its third act. The Civil War just comes out of nowhere, and they did not do the groundwork for it. But it's still a movie I really love. But no, not a great movie. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, is it a great movie? It was a greatly entertaining movie, not a great movie. It was certainly not up there with Pulp Fiction or Reservoir Dogs. I mean, man, talk about a freshman and sophomore thing to follow. The Tribe, I don't think I've seen that. Lincoln was really good. I don't think Lincoln got near enough. I mean, attention. I could maybe say that was a great movie, Lincoln. Personal Shopper, I've not seen that. I mean, this is going to be tough. Boy, people love Hereditary, don't they? I thought Hereditary was great. Was it a truly great movie, though? I'm not enough of a horror aficionado to say. More, I have not seen. Elena, I have not seen. I'm Not Your Negro, I have not seen. Call Me By Your Name, I have not seen. First Reformed. See, now I'm feeling... I watch too much TV. I just don't watch movies at all anymore. Tangerine. We're going to get there. I did see... Oh, man, I loved The Lobster. The Lobster was a blast. But it's just a really weird, quirky, offbeat. You have no idea what's going to happen next kind of thing. So it is a great experience, but again, not a great movie. The Grand Budapest Hotel. That is truly great. Oh my gosh. That is so perfectly constructed. It is a masterclass. And I totally understand why not everybody would think it is his greatest work, but it might be my favorite. Right. Zero Dark 30 literally put me to sleep. Spring Breakers was very good. Cold War I didn't see. Rolling Stone. Oh, man. Selma. I watched Selma with my mom. And yeah, I'm going to say, even if it is a little maudlin and cloying at times, it is still so amazing and so... that and Hidden Figures. Hidden Figures and Selma are both, I would say they are towering works, for me anyway. Dunkirk. Boy, I really liked it. But I was not quite as engaged. I think I appreciate it more on an intellectual level. It did not pull me in the same way Inception did. Right. Lady Bird was absolutely beautiful. I loved that one too. I did see that. I have not seen Burning. Man, I started watching The Irishman and said, how long is this? I can't do it. Under the Skin, I watched. That was too slow paced for me. Winter's Bone is amazing. Winter's Bone is bleak. I saw it when it first came out, long before Jennifer Lawrence was a superstar. Didn't know who she was. I thought that was actually very moving. 12 Years a Slave was incredibly powerful and moving as well. Let's see. Haven't seen that one. Inside Llewellyn Davis. I have watched every single film from the Coen brothers. And this was not my favorite Coen brothers film. I really enjoyed it a lot. I found it really engaging, but it did not catch me in the way others have. Parasite. I have mixed feelings about Parasite. Phantom Thread, really. Boy, that one was really good. I didn't expect much from it, and it turned out to be really fantastic, too. I haven't seen Carol. Mad Max Fury Road. You know what? I think that one is flawless, and that one can go beyond genre definitions that most superhero movies can't, to say that is truly a work of great cinema. Haven't seen Roma, really want to. Saw The Master, thought that was fantastic. Did not see Tori Edelman. Get Out was amazing. Yeah, I would certainly say that is great cinema. That is Twilight Zone turned into amazing avant-garde cinema. Boyhood was really impressive. Holy Motors, I have not seen. The Social Network. Geez Louise, I'm such a sucker for Sorkin talk. I could just listen to Sorkin talk all day long. And Moonlight, I am ashamed to say I have not seen it, even though I should. It's on my list. So there's a few off the top of the Rolling Stones head. And obviously a lot I really should see. Okay, back to me. And what is the next question? How do I like Spielworks games? I think Spielworks is one of the coolest, quirkiest developers working today. And I almost always am so happy that I have played their games, like Squaring Circleville, right here, right behind my head. Because they always do offbeat, unusual things. I mean, they're the quintessential indie publisher taking chances, not worrying so much about having really smooth, polished experiences and saying, look, we're just going to do something far out here because we just think it's cool and let's give it a try. That said, very few Spielworks games end up staying in my collection. And I think it is because they are a little rough around the edges. And ultimately, I'm so happy. Wow, I really enjoyed this. I mean, I do plan on keeping Squareville. That one was particularly good. But a lot of times I play them and say, well, that was really cool. Not for me and Jen. I don't know that I should keep it because if I ever go back and play a game, whenever I get rid of a game, my first thing is, right, what games are on my shelf that if there's like 5 games on my shelf that I would go back and play over this, maybe I shouldn't keep it. And Squaring Circleville, that one really stood out to me. But I always think that they're very, very cool. What, Kabuki Kid asks, is my favorite brand of ice cream? I am probably going to have to say Tillamook. Tillamook is a locally produced, or actually I'm in southern Washington State, there in northwest Oregon. I have been to the Tillamook processing plant. I have taken the tour. I have been eating Tillamook products my entire life. So a part of it is just a really strong sense of nostalgia, but there is something about their ice cream, hard ice cream, that is smooth and rich in a way that I don't get in other mass-produced. Don't get me wrong. I love Ben and Jerry's. it's hard for me not to appreciate ice cream of any sort on some level. But if I had to pick one, actually, no. I'm going to say Tillamook is my number 2. The best ice cream I've ever had in my life consistently is, unfortunately, you will have to go to Malta. It's a little confectionery shop called Busy Bee. They started out as like a bakery pastry type place, and then they did a little bit of ice cream, and the ice cream proved to be so popular, a couple blocks down they opened up a dedicated Busy Bee ice cream gelateria, however you say that, and theirs is the best ice cream in the world. I say this as a guy who's eaten tons of Italian ice cream, tons of ice cream all over Europe, tons of ice cream all over America. I've had ice cream in Japan, and yes, the Maltese ice cream Busy Bee is the best ice cream in the world. Sorry. It's very akin. It's very it's basically Italian gelato, but I've had a lot of gelato in a lot of Italian places, a lot of really high rated places, and nothing could touch Busy Bee. So if you're ever going to Malta, and here's the weird thing too, honestly, they've got a lot of choices, they're constantly changing things out. The best thing they have is literally their vanilla. It is so amazing. It is so deep and rich and nuanced, and it's probably the thing I miss most about living in that country, more than anything else. Okay, and then Kabuki also requests a chicken update. Chickens are fine. I think we have 16 of them now. We recently... I know I've mentioned this before, that Jen has annexed a sizable portion of the common land of our housing estate that we live in. It's a manufactured homes estate, and there's 2 acres of just forest that there are certain people in our housing community who, let's just sell that to developers and we'll all end up getting $10,000 or something or whatever. And no! This is a great place to walk our dogs and stuff. But we have been slowly annexing more and more of it. Every time, though, Jen always gets approval from the HOA, the home, whatever HOA stands for, and we keep offering. Look, we'll pay $10 a month, which is what they charge for the We also have a public lot that if some people have too many cars, and okay, we only, each house only has one space allotted on the street to keep things under control, but then we have overflow parking, and it costs you $10 a month. So I'm saying I will pay $10 a month for all this space because I'm not using the overflow parking, and I'll donate that to somebody else. But so Jen recently, the chickens have completely decimated a sizable portion of the land that we have annexed. And so a couple weeks ago, we had to go out and completely reconfigure the electric fence to completely cut them off from that. So now they have this very long, narrow path they have to go to get to new, untouched grass, so that Jen has now planted grass and the old area is regrowing because it had just become a mud pit. So that's what's new in Chickenville. Oh, and they're all laying. We have way too many eggs. We are always trying to give them away to the neighbors. Okay. Goblin says, what do you say, Goblin? What you talking about? Goblin says, there is a Rahdo on Twitch. Is that you? No, it is not. And it drives me freaking nuts that there's a Rahdo. I wrote several times saying, hey, dude, I will pay you. Give me that name. I would like it. It's kind of my brand. It's kind of my thing. I never got a reply. I wrote to Twitch saying, look, this person has never done anything, has not gotten online in years. Will you please cancel it and let me have that? Because meanwhile, I have built this brand for a decade. And they said, you know what? Every once in a while we review these cases. Don't hold your breath. And I'm like, ugh! And I will not show you the rude gesture I made to my screen when that was the retort I got. So no, I have no idea who that is. I don't know. And it drives me nuts because I would much rather be able to point people to twitch.tv/Rahdo rather than Rahdo Runs Through. But it's not me. It ain't me. No. It ain't me. Alrighty. Getting back to when I was unboxing, is there a guide for putting all of these faces in their compartments? You know what? That was a huge oversight. What kind of unboxer am I? At no point did I give you folks a tour of the rulebook, did I? Oh, I'm terrible. I am terrible. Let's see here. Here it is. Let's go back to the overhead camera and continue the unboxing. So, okay, there's all that. There's just these player aids, which seem very nice, very thorough. And then we've got the rule book. All right, let's take a looky-loo. Let's get that off screen so you can see it a bit better. All righty, so overview. Before the first game, carefully remove the set of die and re-roll tokens. The chits. Remove and set aside more chits. Dice assembly. Assemble the black, white, and grays with these particular faces. Then assemble the green die with these particular faces. Then the fate die with these particular faces. Remove die faces during play. All right, so it doesn't look like there's anything there. There's a thing here. I don't see anywhere in here that they break it down, and if so, that is a huge oversight. I have a hard time believing that. Let's see, did they put something on the side of the box? Sometimes they do that. No. Or there's this. There's a picture of one, but there are 3 trays worth of stuff. All right, wait, what's this? All right, game setup. First game. Put the 5 preset tiles, Plow Team, Gardener, Steward, Grain Robber, and Hero below the Master Tray. From the bag with 40 white faces, sort them into 5 piles, matching each. So, okay, these are the ones they start with. They say, hey, go to the bag that has 40 white faces and put them all into these stacks. Oh, you know what? Oh, no. Look, yeah, right. Okay, so this here, I'm sorry, I totally missed this. This is a guide for the main, for the main tray, and then I know the other 2 trays take all those white faces in various ways. So they say, hey, ignore that for now, because they're just trying to get you set. They say, here's how to set up the main thing. Play your first game with just these. Ignore the rest. And so that makes me think that after your first game, upgrade. All right, so the upgrade path, scoring, after the first game. After the first game, place the 5 groups used in the first game in 5 compartments, open the bag of 152 white, sort them into 19 groups of 8 faces, put these in the other 19 compartments of the string, open the bag. Okay, yeah, so there is a guide, Ryan. There's no pictures, but it seems like it's a pretty thoroughly articulated step-by-step of how to do it. So, all your hopes and prayers have been answered for when you eventually get your hands on this game. Alrighty. Okay. And I think that is it. Now, there were a bunch of questions that had come in yesterday's R&R. And Ruel ran out of time. Ruel had to run. You may not have picked up on that. Ruel was ready to go at 2 o'clock. So we left a bunch of questions. We said, hey, let's do it next week. But let me just look at these really quick and see if there are any I could do right now. Because maybe they wouldn't be Ruel focused anyway. Yeah, like this one. Why? Why did Richard move to Malta? That's a good question. I moved there because at the time I was still a member of the video game development industry, and I got a great job offer to be the creative director, or I forget. Where am I? It was like studio head of create. I forget what it was, but basically I got a job offer at a startup, and Jen, I said, wow. Our thought was if we moved to Malta. In much the same way that we lived in England for 9 years, and we were able to use England. Oops, let's get back to full screen. We were able to use living in England as a kickoff point for touring all over Europe. Going as far east as Poland and the Czech Republic, and north to. Yeah, we did a little bit of Nordic stuff, down into the Mediterranean. We thought, okay, we've seen a lot. England was really great to be able to see a lot of Europe. Malta, that's got to be great to see a lot of Africa, right? Because it was always a pain to fly to Africa from England. It was way too far. And we really wanted to, tour Africa and do a lot of stuff there. We get to Malta, just assuming that would be the case. Turns out it's not. If you want to get to anywhere in Africa, even Egypt, which is like almost puddle hopper distances, you got to fly to connecting flights in Milan. Because Malta is not an international gateway. Malta is an end-of-the-line kind of place. So, we ultimately did do a really nice long safari trip through 5 different countries in the southern half of Africa, in sub-Saharan Africa, and it was amazing. But yeah, we had to fly there out of Germany, if I recall. But ultimately, I went there for a job. The job ended. We stayed because the cost of living was so low, and yet the quality of life was so high that it allowed me to become a full-time board game YouTuber. And but then eventually we had to move back to the States to help my mom because she's getting on in years, and she was out in the middle of the forest by herself and really needed help. Okay. Let's see. That was asking both of us. That's a follow-up from an R&R question. R&R question. That's both of us. Okay, here's one. And this is a fair question. Bing says, will I ever do a run-through of Dominion? Bing owns it. He loves it. And Rahdo Runs Through feels incomplete without it. And you're entirely right. I totally should. It is ridiculous that I never have. I have done, I believe, a top 14 countdown expansions. And I've covered every single expansion except for the most recent one, which I haven't played yet. But no, it's ridiculous that I've never done a run through. And especially because I know it would get tons more views than most things I cover. Because, as I mentioned earlier in the podcast, there's hundreds of thousands of people every day discovering games, and a lot of them are discovering Dominion for the first time. And why shouldn't their first introduction to Dominion be my video instead of one of the other ones out there? So I really should do it. The only thing that's preventing me, well, I see. Hold on a second. Is it on the thumbs list? Thumbs. Dominion. Dominion Allies is on the thumbs list, but sadly, it only has 14 thumbs. Only 14 people want to see me actually cover Dominion Allies. If this could rise to the top, getting way up here to where it's got, in the 50s and 60s number of thumbs, that means, hey, whatever's at the top of the thumbs, I cover every month. I was actually going to do Terra Mystica Merchants of the Seas this month, but then I discovered there's a really cool Automa expansion. So I just ordered the Automa expansion. It's not going to be here in time. I got it from Fun Again Games. So I'm going to do Terra Mystica next month now because it's currently the most thumbed thing there is. I don't know if I'm going to do Fjords because I've already done Fjords, and this was somebody asking for the new one. I really have to look to see if the new game changed much. I've got a copy of Claim. I'm ready to film that. Stardew Valley. I don't know, man. I know a lot of people say it's good. I read the rules. I just didn't think it didn't really grab me. Sagani, I've got this. I'm ready to film it. Space Hulk Death Angel Mission Pack 1, I've got that. So I've got several of these queued up, ready to film. But if somebody were to make a big push, because, hey, if you go to thumbs.rahdo.com, that's what we're looking at right now, right, folks? Thumbs.rahdo.com. And you come down here to Dominion Allies, which is the latest one, and you click on that. I think it's me. Didn't I add this? Yep, I added it. I feel like I need to cover this since I've done every other Dominion expansion in my in my countdown video. So, if 40-some people thumb this thing, what I will do is, when I go to covering Dominion Allies, I will treat it as a Dominion run-through. I'll talk about Dominion, and maybe I'll throw some other stuff in. It'll be a run-through of, hey, look how variable Dominion is. Look at all these interesting things. Let me show you a lot of different variety, including the latest expansion, Allies, but also let me just show you how Dominion works. And I would classify that as a Dominion video, and I'd finally have one. So, balls in your court, Bing. Get those thumbs for Dominion Allies. Woo! Okay. Let's see. What else? All right, that was more R&R stuff. I would say that's R&R stuff. That's definitely an R&R. Okay, so... oh yes, hey, Great Savior just asked just now, did I ever look into the issue with games.rahdo.com? The wonderful, wonderful coder who made games.rahdo.com and thumbs.rahdo.com has seemingly disappeared. He has not logged into Board Game Geek for over a month. I found him on Facebook. I don't think he's logged into Facebook for quite a while either. I reached out to him. He didn't reply. It seems like the server is down, and it looked like it was all over. And so I went to, let's see here. Let me find that. I went to Board Game Geek, like I always do, because Board Game Geek is the source of everything good in my life, except for my wife. It's the second biggest source of everything good in my life. And where is the thread I started? Let me find that thread. DTT. Here we go. I started the thread. Hey! Coders who know their way around the BGG API, I put the call out in April 30th. Got a few responses suggesting other stuff that wasn't quite there. And then Gerald Fitzsimmons, or Geroid, stepped up. And he said, you know what? I've never done this before, but he's a coder. I will figure it out. And within a few days, he had made the thumbs, and then less than a week later, he had made games. And so, thumbs.rahdo.com is born again, which is so thankful because, as you saw, I use this list to keep track of what games I need to play, what games have the most interest from my audience. Because, hey, if you come here, you can click on request.rahdo.com. You can request I cover games, and you can put thumbs on games. If you want games covered, like where was it? It was the Dominion one, right? Dominion. If you click on that with only 14 thumbs, oh my gosh, was it just 13 thumbs a second ago? I think it was. It's now 14 thumbs. It's 15 thumbs. It's working. What was I just quoting there? It's working. I got a little kid shouting, "It's working! It's working!" Oh, I was just counting. I was quoting young Anakin from Phantom Menace. It's working! It's working! You can just click on that on thumbs.rahdo.com. It'll take you, and then you can thumb it. And yep, Goblin. Yep, it was Anakin. I don't know why I was quoting that, but it is in fact working. So he got that up and running, and then he also recreated games.rahdo. So games.rahdo.com now takes you to this. This is a list of all the games I have ever run through, whatever it is. It's up to like 17 or 1,800 games now. And I should say now it's not just me. I say my team has run through. And ones that I still have in my collection are way up here at the top because they are ranked. And so, yeah, sorry, in the name of Odin, that one didn't make it. You can go to gone.rahdo.com to find out why. But you can still come over here and click and go directly to the run-throughs. So if there's a game you're looking for, you can find it at games.rahdo.com. If you want to know how I rank things relative to each other, games.rahdo.com. Thank you, Gerald, for stepping up and making it possible. You can see, first he did this. I was so happy. Then he did the other one, and I was even more happy. I was so happy I gave him 2,000 geek gold, and I feel like that was not enough. I owe him so bigly. Everybody, big round of applause for A. Gerald Fitzgibbons. That's somebody's cue if they want to use the sticker down below to do some applause, but that's okay. Right. So yay, it's back. It's back and better than ever. And again, I just have to say thank you so much to the coder who had done it for me originally, and I hope wherever you are, you're okay, because you seem to have disappeared, and that's a little scary. Right, okay. There you go. A little late with the bravo, but very much appreciated. King Engine 1, games.rahdo.com doesn't work for you. Does it go? It goes to a broken link, right? That is because at some point in the last few weeks in your browser, you tried to go to games.rahdo.com and it went to the broken link. So your browser cache now has the broken link it's in its cache, and you have to clear your browser cache. Which, depending on your browser, there's different ways you could do it. Use a browser you've never used before. If you're on Windows 10 and you're on Chrome but you use Edge, go to Edge. You should see it's working. Although I should point out, it's just games.rahdo.com. If you type in https:// S for secure, it won't work because I'm a cheap so-and-so and I'm not paying the extra money to be able to make all of my Rahdo redirects secure HTTPS compliant. So it's http:// games.rahdo.com or just games.rahdo.com. If it's going to a broken link, that means you need to clear your cache. Although I think caches ultimately clear on their own over time, so maybe try again tomorrow. The thing only went up yesterday. What the heck? What the heck? Hello, did we just get raided from Brett Spiel Podcast? Guten Tag, guten Abend, meine Freunde. Wie geht's? And that's as far as I'm going to take that. I'm assuming if it's Brett Spiel Podcast, we have some Deutsche folks in the chat. Welcome. It's very nice. I'm in the middle of doing some Q&A. We were actually probably just about to go, but really quick, if you have any questions for me, type them into the chat, but start your question with a question mark so it'll go into my special queue so that I will see it. And in the meantime, I will go back to my queue of questions that people have asked by starting the question with a question mark. Alrighty. Although I think I'm out of them, quite frankly. Right. I would rather hear Ruel answer that one than me, quite frankly. And that's a good one for Ruel too. Yeah, I think the rest of these are from Ruel. But you just got here. I don't want to leave just as you're showing up. But you missed the unboxing of. Oops. Hello. Back to the full screen. You missed the unboxing of Dice Realms. You missed the recording of the podcast. You missed the lion's share of the Q&A. Yeah. Okay. So I think I'm caught up. Unless. All right. Yes, that is correct. Scott O'Brien just points out, you know what? If games.rahdo.com is not working for you, go to bankerofthegods.com/rahdo/ratings.php because that fellow I just talked about, Gerald, he's a game designer. Banker of the Gods is the game he is designing. And so he's got that URL. He's got a website devoted to it, and he just put these little extra pages on his website. And all I did is I redirected games.rahdo.com to that website so people can find it. But yeah, you should just be able to go directly to bankerofgods.com/rahdo/ratings.php, and then you can just make a shortcut to that. if your cache will not allow games.rahdo.com to look. Very good. Thank you, Scott. I don't know why that didn't occur to me. That is so obvious. That should have been the first thing I said. But obviously, I'm exhausted. Exhausted, I say. Let's see. Yes, Fidelia. Thank you. The German film I was talking about. When earlier in the Q&A, somebody asked me, what's the last great film I thought of? And literally, the first thing that popped into my head was The Lives of Others. Man, that's an amazing movie. That is just... And it's a simple, quiet movie, but so powerful. I highly recommend it to everybody. Let me double check. I'm pretty sure, but that sounds right. IMDb Lives of Others. Yep, from 2006. I've seen other great movies since then. Like I said, it was just the first one that popped into my head. Okay. Thank you for that. Okay. Oh, and but confirmed, clearing cache fixed it. Yeehaw. Okay. Kabuki asks, do I own any third-party inserts? Yes, I do. But only because they were sent to me by places asking for a Rahdo review. So I've got a few from Rob Searing of the Dice Tower. You know, he's been their webmaster for forever. And he has a side thing. It's called insert.me, I believe. Or it's either insert.here or insert.me. Insert.here. Either way. No, okay, so it must be insert.me. .me. No, neither of them are there. All right, all right. Rob Searing inserts. DT. All right. The board game insert. Oh, he's okay. He no longer maintains. Oh, okay. No, it's yeah. Insert here. Insert here.me. So I've got a few of these. They're foam, and they're quite nice. I've got one for Escape. I've got the entirety of all of my Lords of Waterdeep collection in my Scoundrels of Skullport because of his excellent insert, and I had a couple of others. So I've got those, and the only other one I have, I think, is a Gloomhaven insert called the Rocks insert. What was it? Let me find that one. Rahdo Gloomhaven insert. And, yeah, the Gloom box, which I also thought was excellent. And actually, I did a run through with me and Jen actually building it. It took us like 2 hours, if I recall correctly, because we'd never done one before. But don't worry, it doesn't take 2 hours to watch the video because I sped it up and just, stopped at key moments. So I think those are the only third-party inserts I have. Honestly, they're neat. I don't care enough about inserts. I am just as happy throwing everything into baggies and just throwing all the baggies in and just letting them flop around. In fact, in some ways, I'm more happy than that because it's easier to put stuff away. Inserts make things easier to set up, but I care more about making things easy to put away because after I'm done playing a game, I'm exhausted. I don't want to take all the time to organize things. When I'm starting playing a game, I'm full of energy. I've got the mental wherewithal to organize things then. So I like, which is why I think baggies work better for me. What who the? Rainer just rated us as well. Guten Abend as well. Oh, wait, no, Rainer's in America. But hello. Let's see. We're just in the middle of Q&A, and although we are just about out, if you have any questions, ask them with a question mark at the beginning so that I will see them. Like Kabuki Kid asked when she said, do I own any games with painted pieces? Anything you painted or Jen? Not in the proper way you're thinking. When we got Seventh Continent, we both liked it so much. And the pieces were so tiny. The miniatures were really, really small. The Jen said, boy, and we were putting lots of hours into it the first time we played it through. The Jen said, I'm going to paint these. Now, really? You're going to go out and paint? No, she said, no, I'm just going to go get some Sharpies. And so I have some Sharpied miniatures, which did not work out very well at all. And in fact, it was so terrible that there was a fan of the show who said, hey, if you ever need anything painted, let me know. And I said, I think I need these things painted because Jen kind of ruined them by taking a Sharpie to them. Not that Jen isn't an incredibly talented artist. She's got some really great water paintings and oil paintings that we have on walls and stuff. But yeah, painting miniatures with Sharpies was not ever bound to work out well. So our Seventh Continent miniatures are painted. Our Gloomhaven miniatures are painted. And I think that's it. That's it. Yeah. Yeah. Because believe me, I would like every miniature to be painted because I hate gray lumps of plastic on the table. But I'm never going to bother. Jen doesn't have the time. Maybe that's something Jen in retirement might want to start doing. I could see that being something that she would get into because she's very artsy. Alrighty. Next up, Mom Gamer says, What game is the automat for that just you mentioned? The Automa. I was talking about how... What was I just talking about? Terra Mystica. Because Terra Mystica is currently at the top of my request list, I was going to film it this month. I've killed Terra Mystica years ago, but the Sea of Merchants expansion was requested, and it made it to the top. It's got 60 thumbs right now. So I was going to film it. I had to go out and buy a copy of Terra Mystica. It's expensive. Terra Mystica is crazy expensive. And unfortunately, I bought it before I knew there's this stupid big box coming out. If I'd known that was coming, I would have bought that instead. But anyway, so I bought those two separately, and then I was literally setting it up 2 nights ago, and I saw on a Board Game Geek, all of a sudden, there's this Automa expansion. And somebody said, the developers said, this is the best way to play a 2-player. I'm like, well, I got to play it that way now. So I've ordered that, and it's on the way. It won't make it in time. So next month, I will be doing a run-through, either a solo or a 2-player run-through of Terra Mystica with the Sea of Merchants expansion and the Automa. That is the plan. Or at the very least, I'm going to be playing it and then talking about it in a roundup. I don't know if I'm going to do a full run-through or not. We will see. Right, clearing the cache worked. Okay, cool. Okay, folks, you don't seem to have very many questions. So, and I see Kabuki is saying that I'm getting kind of choppy. Chop. So, Terraforming Mystica. Yes, that would scream to the top of the BGG Top 100 in a heartbeat. That's true. Okay, so apparently the tech is starting to break down. Okay. I scrolled up and I see people are asking questions without the question marks. Rainer asks, what about tan pieces of plastic? Is that preferable to gray? It honestly is. Quite frankly, gray is just the frickin' worst. Rainer, you're in the board game industry. Could you tell me why does it always go to gray? Why can't they by default be some kind of nice shade of purple or green or tan? Anything. I mean, gray is just about as boring as you could get. Straight black or straight white would be better than frickin' gray. Is gray plastic just cheaper than anything else? You tell me. You probably know the answer. Answer the question. Don't wait for the translation. Answer the question. Alrighty. Let's see. I don't think Jen was very pleased with the outcome of her Sharpie experiment either, quite frankly. They had really weird little off-centered eyes because she tried to do the 2 eye. Yeah. Jen's true strength is in glass. Let's see. Is gray cheaper? That's what I'm asking. Gray is... Oh, I see. Gray is easier to paint over or detailed enough to put a wash. Okay. That makes sense. And honestly, gray miniatures with a wash, they're fantastic. I'd still rather have bronze miniatures with a wash. Like, the Wonder Woman game. Challenge of the Amazons, Wonder Woman Challenge of the Amazons. They were like bronze with a wash. Those were very nice. I'd much rather have that. But, okay, so gray is just because it's easier for painters. Well, seeing as how miniatures only exist for painters, I guess that makes sense. I can't argue with that. Still not happy about it, though. But thank you. I was genuinely curious after that popped up. Okay, cool. I think we are done, and so we are going to go raid, unless I just saw somebody ask a question. Do you spell gray, or gray? I go EY. I do not go AY. I am not sure what that labels me as. I do tend to put the U's because I spent too much time in England, and it's just second nature. I do that. Although I do say aluminum and not aluminium. Although if I recall correctly, I think they're spelled the same. So silly. And gray. G-R-E-Y. Not gray. Gray-R-A-Y. Which is just weird. All right. And I think Gray Deceiver agrees. That's good enough for me. Okay. What are the qualifications for games to be on the wall behind me? Nothing in particular. They are more recent ones. It's a variety of things. Pessoa is here because I think Pessoa is freaking awesome, and I hope more people discover it. by just through osmosis because they keep seeing it and they say, hey, that looks funky. Maybe I should go watch this video of it. And, because I think that game deserves more. Roll Camera is because it's my favorite game in years. One of the best games in years. So it's up just because I personally love it. I think they're all because I personally love them or because I really hope that they break through more. That's the general gist. Sometimes, these ones over here, those ones are there because they have their titles at the top of the box. So I just kind of like how Tawantin Suyo is just like barely peeking over the edge of the table. I just think that's kind of funny. And how the loop is just, only people who are in the know that that's a loop. It just looks like a little dinosaur or like a Loch Ness Monster kind of thing because you can't see the full world. Loozapalooza! Oh man, 20 people just showed up. We were literally walking out the door. I'm at the end of a Q&A. I think people have run out of questions, but 20 people just showed up. This is your chance. Tell me if you have a question for me. Start it with a question mark, if at all possible, because that will help me spot it and not miss it. But first time chatter, CD on board, howdy to you. Don't often get howdies on the interwebs. That's very nice. I often say howdy in real life. As it happens. And it makes no sense. I think it confuses people more than anything else because I'm no longer in Texas. But that is definitely something I picked up living in Texas for a few years. Alrighty. Oh, okay. Oh my gosh, you're right. Fem Sensei points out, you know what? We did not start today's show with a Battle Royale. So we're going to have a Battle Royale now, folks. If you are a subscriber to the show, which, by the way, is free if you're an Amazon Prime member, and it gets us closer to unlocking another RVR, look at the progress. If you're a subscriber, you get one of those cute little stream avatars down there, which means you can walk around and hug people and play slot machines and dance and jump and do all kinds of things. And you can also fight to the death, which is what's going to happen right now with a Battle Royale. Alrighty, there we go. And whoever wins this Battle Royale, if I can type right, I can't type right. What did I say? I said Battle Royale, B-A-T-T-L-E Royale. And whoever wins this Battle Royale is going to get 100 gold that they can use to customize. And you see, normally on the R&R show, we have about twice as many competitors. So this is going to be over pretty quick. There I am over on the right with my little golden balloon Rahdo runs through. And me and Fidelia, I'm immediately chasing after Fidelia. Gonna do a quick backstab. Fidelia really needs to stop bringing ice cream cones to Battle Royales. They are not helping out. And then I am now, I am completely under the radar. Nobody even sees me. Oh, but all of a sudden, Sam is backstabbing me. I'm down to half life. What is happening? I threw down with Goblin and oh my gosh, I think I'm not gonna make it. Oh, but I took out Goblin at least. Goblin, my revenge was best served cold. I'm off on my own. If I can get a health pack, just stay in the corner. Don't go for trouble. Oh, here comes Feldfan. The two biggest Feldfans throw down. And Feldfan is the Feldiest as I blow up real good. But then Feld is taken out by Sam. Sam has personally seen the downfall of all Feldfans here today. And there is a health pack on the field. Sam is making the run for it. But he says, I don't need it. I'm going to backstab Fem Sensei instead. Even though Fem Sensei is the ultimate hugger. And all those hugs, Fem Sensei did not get you any love from Sam. Alrighty, oh my gosh, this is down to the wire. One hit will take out Sam or LS. 100,024. Sam gets the health pack though. I don't like your chances, LS. You have won in the past, but today is not your day. And Sam, C107B, is victorious. Or 1078. That makes more sense than 107B. Congratulations. Alrighty, so that was silly. And let's see if that gave anybody the time to ask any more questions, because if not, I'm going to make like a tree and get out of here. Alrighty. Mom Gamer remembers that, hey, didn't we like Terra Mystica? Got rid of it. No, the problem with Terra Mystica, I think Terra Mystica is brilliant, but the original Terra Mystica, what came in that box was not very well balanced for two players. It was an area control game where the coolest elements of the game really just didn't come because they never did any, they didn't tighten up the boards, they didn't have two-player specific boards. It worked as a two-player game, but it was less than ideal. Ultimately, the science fiction sequel, Gaia Project, did a much better job. And honestly, I might have kept Gaia Project, but I remember Gaia Project, I had Gaia Project, and I was planning on keeping that. It's like, okay, I don't need Terra Mystica. But then, Gaia Project, I had it at the same time that I had Clans of Caledonia, which is a different style game, but it still had a lot of the same feels. I'm like, okay, am I going to play Gaia Project or am I going to play Clans of Caledonia? I kept Clans of Caledonia. And now I don't have Clans of Caledonia either because it was a very heavy box. And I was and it was a reason I was trying to figure out, okay, what games should I not bring back to the States? Big boxes didn't make it back. Heavy boxes didn't make it back. So none of them made it. And now, years later, Terra Mystica will rise again because I'm going to try it with the Automa, which apparently makes it a good two-player game. Alrighty. Am I registered to vote in Washington State? Yes, Jen, my mom and I are all registered to vote, and we register regularly. I should say I basically vote 3 times because both my mom and Jen... Washington State is really great. They send out these really nicely done voter pamphlets that walk you through everything on every initiative and every candidate and all that. And give the give the supporters and the detractors spaces where they can talk about stuff. So it's a really great one-stop resource to make relatively informed decisions. And so every time we have a vote, I sit down, I read the thing from cover to cover, and I do all the voting. And I say, there's a couple of them I'm not sure which way Jen would go on this. So I'll ask her and I'll ask Mom about that. But basically, I have the power of 3 votes because Jen and Mom trust me in the household. Alrighty. Okay, so once again, I've caught up with questions asked with question marks, and and I see somebody picked up on my Back to the Future quotes. Very good. Okay. Oh, hello. Some a Goblin says, what's this? Oh, Goblin asks on behalf of somebody else who probably didn't use the question mark. Renegade Revan says, I'm getting into board games. What are some cheap ones that I should get to start my collection? Well, I don't know who you are, Renegade. What I would suggest, what I always suggest, anybody asks me what games should you get, I say go to faq.rahdo.com, entry number 5, because that will take you to a forum where if you ask your exact question right now, you will get deluged with a ton of really good suggestions. It's the recommendation form on Board Game Geek. It's incredibly powerful. It is the single most useful thing on all Board Game Geek is the recommendation forms. When I eventually discovered it in my first year of board gaming, I stopped making bad decisions about which games I got. Off the top of my head, oh, you know what? I do a weekly show with Rel Gaviola, the R&R show, and we did a low-cost episode not too long ago where I think every game was like under $20. Let's see, where was it? Let me see if I can find it really quick because that is a good one. Yeah, here it is. I just pulled it up and I will put the link in the chat right now. So go check that out. That is a list of 10 games with us spending time explaining what they are and why we think they're fantastic and that they are all really, really cheap. So that might be a good thing to start too. Although again, I cannot recommend strongly enough. Go to the the recommendation forum on Board Game Geek. I guarantee you will not regret it. It is 100% worth your time. You will get addicted to that forum for the first year of your Board Game Geekdom because you're like, oh, it turns out I really like this. And you'll go back to the forum and say, well, I really like this one. What do people suggest I do next based on this and that and the other? And you will get laser precise, excellent suggestions every step of the way. Goblin, that is really interesting that you took somebody's question that they didn't put the question mark on and gave it to me. You know what that means, Goblin? You know what that means? I am going to do to you. I know there's a feature in this system that allows me to make a... let's see, where are you, Goblin? First of all, are you a moderator? Yes, you are. So you're a moderator. I can also make you a moderator of my chat queue so that if you see questions pop up that would have been missed, you can force them on me. I don't know how to do that right now, but I'm going to do that this afternoon. And next time, whenever you're here, Goblin, you are on deck to make sure all the questions that miss their question marks make it into the queue because that is awesome. I'm very excited about that. I don't know why that never occurred to me till this second. Eric FHM asks, do I like to paint minis? I like to think that I would like it, but I've never tried it. And the thing is, it takes so much time. It takes so much time to become good enough so that it doesn't take so much time. Paul Grogan of Gaming Rules, a really great YouTube channel. I was watching a Q&A with him the other day, and he was talking about how he had just finished some set of, I don't know, Warhammer minis or something like that he had been working on for 4 years. By hook or by crook, because he does a really great job, but he's very slow. And I suspect that would be me. And I am too much of an instant gratification type guy. What I should learn to do, I should totally learn how to do wash. Because honestly, an ugly lump of gray plastic that has had a wash on it, a nice looking wash, instantly just looks wonderful to me. And I understand that's not that hard. That's just getting the equipment, getting the things, dunking them in, and then drying them off or letting them dry, and that's pretty much it. I desperately need to learn how to do that. And I know full well if I do a search for how to wash minis, I'm sure I'll get a half a dozen really great video tutorials. I've just never gotten around to it, but I really should do that. I really, really should. Yeah. Okay. But still, no more questions shoved on me from Goblin. And, right. So I think... Oh, you're welcome, Renegade Raven. I'm glad to help. Welcome to the party, by the way. Board games are the greatest freaking thing ever. My whole life, I was a video game addict. Ever since in the 70s, I discovered when playing Pong that I could beat my dad at something. And my dad wasn't a god who was good at everything. I was better than him in Pong. It gave me such a boost of self-esteem as a little kid that I was addicted to video games my entire life. So much so that I spent 20 years designing video games as a creative director type. Siphon Filter and The Sims and Fable. But 10 years ago, when I discovered board games, I very quickly fell out of love with video games and haven't really played any since. So, hopefully, it changes your life for the better the same way it has mine. Okay. Oh, Sundrop. Is that what I want? Sundrop. Oh my gosh, Sundrop minis are so beautiful. When I briefly mentioned a while ago, I kind of went on the deep end on Ether Fields. I think I ended up playing about for, I don't know, probably not quite 20 hours. Played a bunch of stuff, a lot of solo. And those, I had the deluxe Sundrop miniatures. Those are nice. What is the difference between Sundrop and a really nice wash, though? Whatever Sundrop is, I want every one of my miniatures in every one of these boxes to have that because it's stunning to me. I mean, honestly, those are so good that I don't feel like, oh boy, but it would be really great if they were painted. Because they look so, they have this really kind of stark black and white, it's like you're watching a beautiful black and white film, is seeing a wonderfully done Sundrop mini. So I guess that's what I really want. But I don't know what the difference is between that and, can people do Sundrops themselves? I'm not sure. Okay. Oh, I see. Sundrop means adding highlights as well as the shadow. So that's why it's so good. So that must be done by hand, right? That's not something that you can automate, I guess. I don't know. Am I annoyed? No, I will happily be here. I could do another 20 minutes of Q&A, no problem. You folks just have to drown me in questions, and I will answer them. This is what I'm good at. This is my superpower. I can talk extemporaneously at great length in a way that some people find at least marginally engaging and entertaining. So I'm here for you to do it, but I think I have worn you folks out because the questions are just drying up. So I think, since in the time it took me to say that, nobody has thought of another question, I am going to look at the raid button now and start planning, unless I see some more questions. Right now, I'm just planning to see what we might raid. And I won't be Luza or Rainer because they're here. So we have to find something else. What else are we essentially looking at? I am searching for board game channels. Oh, wait, no, I need to search for not just the word board game, but the classification of board game. Oh, come on. Board game. There it is, board games. So, and who do we like? I'm looking for English. There's me. The Angry Joe Show is playing Halo Hero Clicks. Well, Angry Joe is nothing if not entertaining. That is really interesting. Of course, he has 500 viewers. He doesn't need help from little old me, since he is a video game monster. Oh. Is that in English? No, it's not. Nemesis Off Topico is playing. Oh man, the new game. I can't think of the name of it. Oh, but he's playing a digital version anyway. So okay, never mind. And it's not in English. Not a lot. What is today? Is it Thursday? Yeah, just not a lot going on Thursday afternoon. All right, there's some Terra Mystica Arena being played. We talked a lot about Terra Mystica, so nothing's jumping out at me immediately. I might go on ahead and do. I mean, because I'm kind of curious to see that Halo Hero action clicks myself a little bit. But in the meantime, let's see if you have any questions, and you do. Do I like or get annoyed by vacuum formed inserts? I'm not a fan. Yes. I am not a fan in general of inserts. As I mentioned earlier, I mean, putting aside the sustainability issues, oh man, what is the channel that I subscribe to? It's a woman with red hair. I want to say Jana or Ona. She does like a regular series of talking about sustainability and look, we just don't need these inserts. They're not necessary. And I love how our Jamie from Stonemeyer Games has started putting recycled plastic baggies in his games. So that's really good. The inserts, I totally understand why they're such a big deal for people, because some people just have an almost obsessive need to organize things. It makes them happy. And you know what? I do not begrudge them. If it makes you happy, it can't be that bad. And if vacuum formed beautiful inserts that stack together and interlock and makes you happy, then that's great. I guess I'm more bothered by inserts. The worst thing are those inserts that are just generic and they don't quite fit the game. It's like, why is this here at all? This doesn't need to be here. This could have been I understand why boxes need to be a certain size because of retail shelf presence too. I get all of that stuff. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, Game Trays does. It's beautiful the work they do, but I just don't see the need for any of it, quite frankly. I'd rather we have less plastic in our boxes, quite frankly. That's just me, though. I don't begrudge anybody who loves it, though. What game cons do I favor and attend? My favorite game convention is the Board Game Geek in Dallas in November. Second favorite would probably be Essen Spiel. Third favorite would be the Dice Tower West. Fourth favorite would be in Portugal, Liericon. Fifth favorite would be the UK Games Expo. Those are all the main. I mean, I've been to a bunch of other like smaller little ones, but those are the big ones I've been to. Oh, I guess Gen Con is fine. The only ones I've regularly gone to for the last few years are the Dice Tower and Board Game Geek ones. I guess, in all honesty, I kind of prefer the ones that are more retail focused just because it helps me with my job, because I can go to Essen Spiel and get a lot of games, and hey, I've got content for the next 6 months. But it is nice to go and play. So, but honestly, these days, most of my gaming, the most fun I can have gaming is just playing with my wife, and I can do that here. And I don't have to pay hundreds of bucks for a plane ticket and hotels and all the rest of it. So honestly, I'm not the biggest convention goer when it boils right down to it, because I'm lucky enough to live with my game group. Alrighty. Let's see. Have I done top 10 pandemics? Yes, I have. I've actually done this a few different ways. It was a collaboration I did with probably one of the most knowledgeable pandemic YouTube streamers of all, Lizzie of Long Distance Gamers. She and I we did it two ways. We did top 10 pandemic, mechanisms. Where we took all the mechanisms out of all the spin-offs and all the expansions and rated them by which ones we liked the most. And we knew most people wouldn't like that because, hey, I can't buy these based on mechanisms. So then we also did a follow-up, a part 2, where we just rated all of the expansions and all of the spin-offs in countdown form. And I think maybe that one didn't include the Warcraft one hadn't come out when we did that. But still, that one was within a year ago. So if you do a Google search for Rahdo Top 10 Pandemic, you're going to find that. And we went deep because we're both Pandemic super fans. So hopefully that would give you anything you're looking for in that regard. We tried to be really thorough and authoritative. Renegade is back with more questions. What questions should you ask yourself before buying a new board game that isn't very popular? Well, that's a good question. I like that a lot. And honestly, I will tell you the best thing you can do. Again, I always come back to Board Game Geek. Let me bring back up the browser, right? And, right, let's see. So here we are on Board Game Geek. What's a game that I love that's not very popular? Well, of course, I'm looking at stuff I recently viewed. Okay, let me go to rank.rahdo.com. I'm going to find a game that I love that just hasn't really gotten a lot of attention. How will I know it hasn't gotten a lot of attention? Because that's just sort of my board game rankings instead of my rankings. Okay, boom. And then let's come down here. Okay, I want to get into the sub thousands. Might have to go to the second page. No surprise. Okay. Yep. Okay, I should have gone to the second page because those are all still fairly well known and fairly well ranked. Okay. Oh, you know what? No, I should have done. I should have done average ranking and not popularity, average rating. A game that Board Game Geek hates and that I love. So, right. So really, really low rankings. Like, okay, Carson City, the card game. I think this game is phenomenal. And now you could go watch my run through because what I do, by the way, Renegade, I know you're new. My shtick is I do run-throughs of games, not to teach you how to play, but to let you know what the game feels like to play before you buy it. I'm not trying to teach anybody how to play the game. A lot of people are like frustrated with my videos because, why are you spending so much time on explaining the strategy? I just need to know how to play. I'm not trying to teach how to play the game. I'm trying to teach people like Renegade what it feels like to play so they can decide for themselves that it's fun. But anyway, I thought the game was fantastic. You can watch my run-through and see me demonstrate why I think it's fantastic. But if that doesn't do it for you, go to the page for the game in question. And this is another super powerful tool for Board Game Geek that most people don't know. Click on the comments. Not the ratings, the comments. And then you will have people who love this game, who give it a 10 and go into a lot of detail about why. But not so much detail that you have to spend forever reading or watching a 30-minute long video like what I did. Nice in-depth and dozens, whatever game it is. At the very least, there are going to be dozens, if not hundreds of people who have chimed in. And most people are going to call it an 8. But so what you do is you go and you find people who really like it and you absorb why they really like it. Then you go down to the bottom. You go to the end, because it's sorted by ranking, and you find the people who really hate it, who give it a 5 or less, and look at them and, okay, why do people really love this game, or why do they really hate it? And then if you want, you can spend some, and also, you don't have to scroll on, you can just say, hey, to everybody who has a 7, and boom, you can just see everybody who gave it a 7. So you can also look at people who are just kind of on the fence about it, like it, don't hate it. That is more powerful than any review you can read. That is wisdom of crowds in action right there. Because, okay, somebody who really loves it, here's what they love. Somebody who really hates it, here's what they hate. And then you can say, oh, I think I hate that more than I love that. So this is probably not a game for me. And chances are, if the game is out, you will find, at the very least, there's not a single game that hasn't been out for a few months that doesn't have at least dozens, if not hundreds, of these ratings that you can just get an overall sense. And that's incredibly powerful. You'll also get a bunch of garbage. People are saying, I'm rating this a 1 because I don't like the publisher, or whatever. Or I'm rating this a 10 because so many people are rating a 1. Ignore all of that garbage, but you will find gold in the comments of Board Game Geek for any game you can name. So that is my big suggestion, and hopefully that won't steer you too terribly wrong. Alrighty. What's next? Fidelia, did I see the plastic-free versions that NSKV is producing at the moment? No, plastic-free versions of what? What are you talking about? That sounds fantastic. NSKV, correct me if I'm wrong, did they not merge with Board and Dice? Am I thinking of something else? What is NSKV? NSKV Board Games is, NSKN. Yeah, so they are partnered with Board and Dice. No, I don't know what's going on with NSKN and Plastic Free. NSKN, Plastic Free. What you talking about? Plastic Free Mermaid Instagrams? Okay, I'm not seeing it immediately. Plastic Free July. This was from 2 years ago. Right. So, I don't know what you're talking about, but I would definitely like to know more. And I should definitely come back to full screen because I totally forgot. Hey, we're looking at my browser. Hopefully, there wasn't anything too terribly private that was on there. I'm sure there wasn't. No, I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm really keen. And it's true. I mean, NSKN, they did early on do a lot of very miniature heavy things like their Viking game and whatnot. So that's pretty cool. Rainer, am I going to Dice Tower East? I will go to any convention where the publisher will pay to put me up. Yeah, there's 2 things I'm looking for at a convention. Do you want me there as a special guest, which means I'll do events for you and I'll play games with all of you and you can use me as a draw. Oh, Rahdo's going to be here. And like, okay, just, put me in a hotel room. I know you have a block of hotel rooms. Just set one aside for me and my wife. I'm not asking for airfare. I'm not asking for airfare for her. But give us a room and give her a booth because her gamer glass, she loves doing conventions to sell gamer glass. It's such a buzz for her. It's a lot of stress, but she also really loves doing it. And so what I'll end up doing is, and so I would happily go to Dice Tower East if Tom wanted to work something like that out. That's what I have worked out with Dice Tower West. I am a special guest of the convention. I go and do specific, big events they've asked me to do. And then anybody can find me because at the entire rest of the time, I will be at the Gamer Glass booth at a table, sitting down, playing games with anybody who wants to play a game with me. I'll schedule games to play with people. I'm just trying to play new stuff I get from the library. So if Tom wanted to do that, yeah, I'd totally go. But shy of that, I would rather just stay home and play games with Jen and try not to fall. Because another problem for me, whenever I go to a convention for a few days, my schedule gets destroyed. And then I have a very, very hard time catching back up. Right. Have I ever gone to a convention like the World Board Game Championships, which is more about playing games and selling games? Oh, yeah, I would say, Dice Tower West and Board Game Geek Con, they have a very small retail presence. It's one of the reasons Jen does so well, because there's people who want to spend money. There are not very many publishers there, and then they find Jen's beautiful gamer glass accessories, and they come and buy those, and they have a great old time, and Jen does really wonderfully too. It's interesting. I did get contacted about the World Board Gaming Championship. At one point, they said, hey, do I want to come and, I think it was, do a color commentary. And I thought about it, but if I recall correctly, the time it was happening was not going to be very good for us. And then they just contacted me again. And do I just want to come because I think they had some extra rooms or something. Do I want to come just to have fun? And still, if I recall correctly, the dates of that were just completely inconducive. I mean, total conflict with what Jen and I were doing. So I'd definitely be interested in seeing it. And you're saying because this is a convention, I mean, you go there to play games, but you're also going there to watch the world's best play games. That's interesting. I'm less interested in watching people play games, if I'm honest. Ironic, since my entire show is predicated on people coming to watch me play games. I guess I would enjoy it more if they were playing games in the same way that I run through games, where they would spend the entire time verbalizing all the thought processes they're going through while they're playing. That would be amazing. I would totally want to go see that. But in lieu of that, what would be is the World Board Game Championships. I'm pretty sure they're going to have, like sporting events, color commentators. That would be really interesting. And in fact, I'd rather watch it with the color commentary. People talking about, they're trying the whatever strategy, or why didn't they take that? Maybe they've got some secret, that would be amazing. I would love to see that. But just watching people play games is not that interesting to me. Ooh, what games do I own that I wish had better components? Let's go. I'm probably going to have a hard time giving you an answer for that. Thank you for asking all these questions. Let's come back over to rank.rahdo.com and just look at my games from my favorites to my least favorites. See, I'm really not a big components guy. I just don't care that much. As long as they're not actively bad, I'm totally happy. And even if they're actually actively bad, I don't mind that much. So, that said, are there any of these that I would love? And then on top of that, there's the question of, but getting really super deluxe stuff. I mean, super deluxe stuff is nice. But honestly, I care a lot more about art than I do about miniatures or whatever. I've often said I would rather have a game with a lot of beautiful art standees rather than a lot of beautiful miniature sculpts, because I like the art more. And I'm just looking at my top 100 here. And none of these jump out at me and say, boy, I sure wish this game had cooler stuff. Yeah, I'm sorry. I want to answer your question, but I don't think I can, because I'm just not that precious about high quality components. That is not a consideration for me in what makes for great gaming. So yeah, I got nothing for you, buddy. Nothing. It's a good question though. Alrighty. Let's see. All right. Okay. Several questions about board. As far as I know, the only convention I am going to in the near future is a very small one in Western Oregon. Because, wait, has it been announced yet? Has it been announced yet? If it's not, I can't say. And it has not been announced. In theory, there is potentially a new convention that will be happening in central Western Oregon in a couple of months, if I recall correctly. I think somewhere near Eugene, Oregon, maybe Ashland, somewhere around in that area. And I've been contacted, and they said, well, yeah, if Jen wants to sell some of her wares, that's no problem. You can set up a table for her in the retail area, and yeah, we'll have a hotel for you. I'm like, okay, fine. That's a car drive away. We'll totally do that. So we're waiting to find out if it's actually going to happen, because it's a brand new one. It hasn't been announced. At this point, that is the only one in my future. If I have not heard from Tim if they want me to come to Board Game Geek West next year. I have not heard from Scott Alden if they want me to come to the Dice Tower conventions this year. Or not Dice Tower, the Board Game Geek conventions. If they do, Jen and I will talk about it. I will say one thing, though. We had a great time at the Dice Tower West convention a couple of months ago in Vegas. Absolutely fantastic. At the end of the convention, our flight was canceled. And it was canceled for like 3 freaking days that we were going to be trapped in Vegas, crewing. Pretty much just eating through all the profits Jen made by having to stay at expensive Vegas hotels. So we went through an incredibly stressful time trying to find alternate flights out. We ultimately did. And we ended up paying, just god-awful amount of money. We had to spend one more night at another hotel. And we thought, oh, good, the hotel's only going to be $70. But then we get there and they charge us all these hidden fees, and it ended up being $150. And then it ended up being like $500 for our original flight was going to be like $80. And it's like, and we were so furious about that we never want to travel again by plane, ever. We're still just seething about it. Because we also haven't gotten our frickin' refund from the original airline yet that canceled our flight for 3 frickin' days. And we said, okay, we're just going to cancel. Give us our refund. And they said, okay, we'll do that. And they still haven't refunded us. So we're still so angry about that. We're kind of not really that excited about conventions that we can't drive to at the moment. So that's kind of like overall where I'm at about conventions these days. As I see, what about BGCon Spring and all the rest of it. Let's see here. What have we got? We've got good. Ruckus suggests we raid Resonim, who is a small-time designer channel. That sounds very cool. I'm very interested in that. You got it, buddy. Let's see. I'm just going to put that in the queue for when we do it. Let me see if I can find them. Resonim board games. What's going on? Yeah, cool. Hey, it's just a bunch of people sitting around talking, playing board games together. And this looks fantastic. I've never even heard of this. Thank you. This looks like a fantastic suggestion. They've got a cat on the table. Okay, that looks very cool. Okay, so I've got that in the queue. Let's see how many more questions. Best Twilight Zone episode. I am not as big an aficionado of Twilight. I've seen every single one. The thing that has the most resonance for me is Burgess Meredith with the glasses at the end. I don't know that that's a particularly enthralling video to watch over and over again. But I got to say that's probably the best ending of any Twilight Zone. That one speaks to me personally. As a cautionary moral tale and all of that. So I'll go with that one. Let's see. Okay. That's it. So we are done, folks. Thank you very much for coming along. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for following. Thanks for your questions. Thanks for your support. And if you stick around now, we're going to raid it looks like they're literally play testing a new game. So that's fascinating. There should be some really interesting stuff going on. And also, don't forget, folks, if you decide you want to come back and watch more, if you stick for this raid, you will earn a bunch of Rahdo points. You can see how many Rahdo points you have down there at the bottom of your chat, down there in the corner. The more Rahdo points you have, the more features of the show you can unlock and all kinds of cool stuff. So even if you're not going to stick around for the raid and tell Resonim that Rahdo says hi, and so does Ruckus. Good suggestion, Ruckus. So, sound good? Then let's get ready to raid, shall we? In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Raid! Go, 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 go. Take that question off the screen. I didn't need to keep that there anymore. Okay, so that looks like that is working. Hoorah.
So you can see us.
Oh, wow. Wow. What happened?
Where? Oh, wow. Thank you.
They noticed.
Hi, we're
And we're trying to play Glitch Squad, except I'm right in the middle of a really horrible thing in which I'm going to lose.
Well, they look like a fun group. I hope everybody enjoys that. If you watch this later, again, thanks everybody for watching.
Talk to you. Danielle and Suki help with everything that happens at Resonim. And